Disclaimer. We are regular guys who love to talk Bone Thugs and Harmony. We do not represent Bone Thugs or any Bone affiliate. We are also not Bone Thugs experts. The views and information you hear in this podcast may be based on personal opinion. Please feel free to leave corrections and clarifying information in the comments. And enjoy. Did I lose my guys? What's going on here?
Lost you for a second.
I hear you now.
You got me now? Let's try it again. Yeah. What's up, y'all? It's Cecil West, Beyond the Harmony, beyondtheharmony.com. Back again with the one and only.
Jonathan! Liberty!
And he's the co-hosting, coast to coast and come up creeper, never sour, always sweeter. Ladies and gentlemen,
I am Matthew Weaver.
And this is Beyond the Harmony. If that's the only technical glitch we have of the night, I will be very excited. I'm sure my dinosaur of a computer hates when I do all that crazy shit that we do to bring us live. But we are live. Here we are. What's happening? We're now in it. We are now in season 5, episode 2.
Yeah, quite a week it's been in the last week. Shockingly for Matt, myself, and perhaps Darcy Thugster, we got to see a special DJ Cecil West solo show. What's going on there, buddy?
Yeah, boredom, pure boredom. I said, hey, I this is like the fucking day after the Thin C interview. I'm like, I think I'm gonna go live, John. He's like, bro, They endured us for 3 fucking hours last night, you know? You want to give them a break? And I'm like, no, I'm bored. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go. And I really just got on to just talk, and then somebody said, do you remember something? Oh, the Thugs Cry pre-release with Big B. Somebody was like, do you remember that? And I was like, I do remember that, actually. And I was like, here, let me play it, and I played it, and from there I was just like, I'm gonna play a bunch of stuff, you know. So that's kind of what happened, but I liked it, and maybe I'll do it again.
I actually tuned in during the workday on the lunch break. It was actually quite enjoyable to get to be on the other side of Beyond the Harmony, to get to hear the C-dubs without any requirements on my side. So that was pretty good, man. I enjoyed it. I also like the little the Bone songs at the end. So hopefully that becomes a new tradition periodically. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it disqualifies us from monetization, but like that, that doesn't really bother me per se. So I was very excited to do it and see that people liked it, and I had all these gems that I was like, this is a lot of fun playing. It was either shit that people hadn't heard before, they hadn't heard for a while, so it was cool, man. It's a nice addition to season 5.
Yeah, over the last week, seems like our releases were primarily old newspaper articles. I hope you guys out there are enjoying these old vintage news episodes. Matt, I don't know have you had a chance to see any of these old articles that we've been putting out?
I love that kind of stuff, man. Yeah. I look forward to, I see it, but then actually I like to actually wait and see it on the channel, and like experience it that way because it kind of gives me a piece of like sitting on the stuff because it's
Yeah.
like it's the era that we all claim and say is our favorite and we talk about and we think about all the time. And it's just how cool is it that we're documenting all this stuff for the archives?
Exactly. Absolutely. And in fact, like most of these articles, I would have never read. Yeah, it's we're
Uh,
preserving them because they were in a place that weren't really being preserved. So now it's people in the future will see these. It's a good way
all
to.
Oliver, 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 open up the Eternal artwork, buddy. Look at the Eternal artwork, and you'll find his name in there. He's in there with Julio Costanzo, who I'm sure you remember from season 1, and Donald Cunningham. And our guest tonight, Tyree Dillihay, worked on the E1999 Eternal artwork. He also designed the First of the Month single cover. So he was around at a very pivotal time, working on, of course, probably some of our favorite artwork out there. And he went on to do huge things, including being a director at Bob's Burgers. He has been animator for a ton of different shows on Netflix, web series. He's big in the sneaker game. He's a content creator for Red Bull and Nike and Reebok. I mean, the guy is unbelievable. So it's pretty interesting because this thing that we all hold so dear, right? This E1999 Eternal, you know, it's kind of just a little piece of his story, you know. It's like a boop. Oh yeah, I did that too at the beginning of my life, but you know, I did all this other stuff. So it's pretty interesting that that we're gonna have him in there. So
It's Cecil, dude. It's a Crazy Life in the comments said that Julio Costanzo may be doing the artwork for his new album. How about that, bro?
I love that.
Nice.
Yeah, I love that.
That's
That's
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, I love
By the
that.
way, shout out to It's Crazy Life once again. Thanks for everything, man.
Yeah, Crazy got us that. He got us that Lazy Bone shout out. In fact, you know what? Let's see. Can I? Let's see. Can
A big shout out to
Hey,
Crazy for that. That was super, super cool to see. Like I didn't see that coming. Of course I didn't, but like that was really cool to see.
it was?
yeah, if you could pull one of those little specials out there, C Dubs,
That's what
yeah.
I'm seeing how you do it. I'm not sure. I see the.
While you're looking, I'm just gonna give a quick check on everybody here. Oliver Rando, Joseph Tech, Andy with all the numbers. Also, I'll point out Joseph Tech, member of the Skull and Crossroads Society. Andy, also a member. RC Thugsta, I think also a member. Obviously, Matt, myself, Kyle Rickett, George Ramirez, longtime listener, back from probably season 1, one of the coolest dudes on the West Coast, Dodger fan, doing it. He's also a YouTuber. Jordan Corey, one of the coolest bone collectors out there. It's a Crazy Life guy with the album that has the craziest feature collection ever assembled for a single album by an independent artist. If you guys haven't heard the It's a Crazy Life album, check it out. We got a song on our channel. It's a Crazy Life featuring Crazy Bone and Young Bleed from How You Do That There. He did a track with both of them on the same track at the same time. It's got a bone vibe to it. And we got L Burner in the comments. So shout out to all you guys. Thanks for being here. And I hope it's a great night like it was last week. You got that thing queued up there, Cecil? Or did your
It doesn't it doesn't let me do it for free. I don't know. I'm trying and it doesn't seem to let me. So I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to see what's up. I don't really know.
is the we did have another one of our sequence of coincidental events this week. I don't know if it's shareable. The mailbox, is that kosher combo or no?
The what?
The mailbox number.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
So as you guys know, this is the Eternal season. Tonight we have Tyrie, the Eternal artist. but some more eternal synchronicities have happened along the lines of the runes and reconnecting, rekindling with old people. I go to get the mailbox set up for the Skull and Crossroads Society, which I hope anybody out there listening joins. And I'm thinking as I'm going in, I'm like, something magical is going to happen here. It's not going to, whatever number I get, it's going to be such the perfect number. So I go in, I pay for the box for the Skull and Crossroads Society, and the number they give me is 322, which is the number associated with the Skull and Bone Society. So for the Skull and Crossroads Society, our mailbox is the same theoretical occult number as the Skull and Bone Society. So of all the numbers we could have got, we got that one. So just add that on. As we said, we haven't really drawn out all the events that took place that led us to this point, but it's a sequence of events, and that's just another one that's added on to these bizarre sequences that let us know that right here, right now, doing this is what we should be doing right now. So anyway, we got a Skull and Crossroads Society box. Maybe you guys want to join the Skull and Crossroads Society. There's different tiers. One of the tiers gets you into this special Voxer that we have on the side, a special Skull and Crossroads shirt. Other tiers have other things. Also, I want to point this out. Right now, it may not seem like something that you got to do, but at some point this season, Cecil's going to drop this video, and it's going to be members only, and you're not going to want to miss it. So if you're not a member now, just keep it in the back of your mind, knowing that at some point Cecil's about to drop the eternal video of all eternal videos, actually multiple ones. So just keep that in the back of your minds and be on the lookout for that, or perhaps join before then. Speaking of that, Cecil, were you able to get that thing going?
Nah, man, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why it doesn't let me. I'm seeing if I can maybe do it from my phone, but you guys know me. When we're on a fucking show, I'm doing like 100 things, right? So I'm also talking to Tyrie on the side, trying to figure out why we're not live on Instagram, trying to fight with people that want to know what I look like in real life. I mean, my life is just out of control.
Also, there is a video that eventually will be public for everybody. Right now, it's on members only. I'm not sure what the release date is for everybody else, but it's got this picture of Bone and Mo Thugs, and which had the Graveyard Shift and Poetic Hustlers. But this is like an old '94 photograph, and it's so old that Gates is pictured in it, and he's got a different name, and Tombstone's in the picture, and I think Sin is in the picture as well, along with obviously Boogie Nike and Tony Tone, along with the Bone members. But it's a picture that we've never seen before. Chances are you guys probably didn't see it before either. So if you're not in the members only, be on the lookout over the next week or two for it to become public, and check out that picture. It's pretty cool.
Man, that picture, John, it was like, how it would probably be pretty hard to impress each other with something about Bone, right? Or our passion or whatever. But like that picture, like it really stood out to me and kind of like took me back for sure, especially with the different name. Like, I feel like we should do something with all of these pictures that we're unearthing. It's like, I mean, we can make a slideshow, YouTube video, but like all that AI stuff that we're doing, it's like, I feel like we could like maybe come up with something really cool, like to preserve this stuff in a way that's like, would do it justice. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been keeping, I got a Beyond the Harmony folder that I've been trying to keep clippings of all these. And not only that, I think once we finally get all these articles out, I'll put a montage together, because the early videos that we did do before RC the Great found the actual newspaper articles, it was just all text only at the beginning. And then I said, hey man, can you get the actual newspapers? And so now we're getting the actual newspapers, but I wanted to go back and show, like, because there was pictures, like old pictures in some of the early ones that we already released. So I'm just going to put all those articles together once it's all said and done. If I ever complete all these, there's a lot left. As many as we put out, there's a lot left to go.
All right.
That's
well,
awesome.
I think it's time. Let's Let's get Tyrie in. People have had plenty of questions about who he is, and I'm confident by the end of our interview tonight, you guys are going to have a brand new understanding and respect for the situation. We'll bring him in. We're waiting for him to load into the waiting room here. Oh, yeah, work quick. Tyrie, you with us?
Hello, hello.
There he is, Tyree Dillihay. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, man. Wow, that was smooth and simple. This is a man that's done this before. We've had plenty of trouble getting people in, so that was nice and easy, man. Thanks for joining us tonight.
All right, it's all good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I've been bugging Tyrie for a while now to come on the show, and I told him, I'm like, hey, look, I'm a real nerd for the artwork piece. I'm like, we've had Julio on here. We've had all these people that have done it. I'm like, I know you have all this stuff in your career that you've done besides this bone artwork, but please, for the love of God, come on here and let me bug you about this thing that you did when you were 17. So I appreciate you doing it, man. Let's jump right in. I did a lot of research. I was reading a lot, and I see that you grew up in Inglewood, California. Were you born there as well, or did you just grow up there? Like, what's the story?
Yeah, born and raised.
Born and raised. And being a kid in that like culture, that environment, obviously you can hear about some of the unfortunate side effects of being in that area. What was it like growing up in that environment and trying to just rise above and become who you are?
Yeah, you just a daily basis of navigating trouble and navigating what's right. Trouble is literally on the other side of the street. Trouble is your next door neighbor. Trouble is the kids around the corner. Really just trying to stay safe. My mother, I came from a single parent household. My mother was in law enforcement. And when you grow up in the 80s, at the height of gang culture and violence, the last thing your police officer mother wants you to do is to get caught up in that, because I think it would be embarrassing and heartbreaking for her to potentially one day see me behind bars, or maybe even potentially be that person to put me behind bars, or potentially have to take my body away or identify me, because that happened to a lot of childhood friends. So navigating that was just a daily operation for me. But thank God I made it out.
Yeah, man. It's crazy when you talk about that area, because like you said, there's so many people that have that unfortunate side of it, but then there's also so many people that have rose above the circumstances and become great figures that we know in entertainment. And so it's pretty interesting when you see the mix of that environment and the both sides of the coin. You have people that just become greatness, and then people that don't make it. And it's really just like it could have gone either way, right? Like you're saying, you could be you, or you very well could have been the other side of that with just a few different decisions. So it sounds like you were always a pretty, not necessarily level-headed, but very focused kind of guy. Like, I mean, to be doing what you were doing so young, I was curious, like, what got you started drawing? And when did you realize that you had this talent? And more importantly, like, when did other people start to realize, like, you have this talent?
Yeah, good question. I think it was about 3 years old.
Wow.
I was drunk. So I lived with my grandparents off and on as a child up until like 12 years old. And, your grandparents being older people, they can't entertain you in ways that a younger parent can. So to keep me quiet in church on Sundays, they would give me paper or tithes envelopes to draw on, and I'd take them up on that offer. Sure, I don't have anything else to do. I was a quiet kid, so I wasn't that kid that was running around making noise, slapping adults, filling on old ladies' legs or anything like that. That wasn't me. So I was in there drawing. But not only was I drawing, I was actually listening and paying attention to what the pastor or the reverend or the visiting bishop was saying, during sermons. So one day, a preacher was talking about, Jesus died on the cross for our sin, hellfire and brimstone. We should thank God for all these things that he's done for us because he died on the cross. I ended up drawing a picture of that at 3 years old. And, it's little stick figures. It's got the cross, 3 cross, Jesus in the middle, the disciples on east and west of them. They got the I forget what you call them, but the guys at the bottom, they got forks, sticking them in his body. And I drew that very clear as day with stick figures. My grandma was looking at this like, wow, you drew that? Yeah, like I'm the only child here. Yes, I drew it. So basically my talent was discovered in the church. And then my grandparents and my mother just kept feeding that. Tyrie likes to draw. So then it just carried on. Comic books, Mad Magazine, that was a big part of my life. I loved Mad Magazine. And the big reason why is because it was semi-adult. So you can imagine, like when you're 8 years old, all the way up to 12 years old, and you have no other outlet for adult material. And then here it comes in the form of this quote unquote comic book that's actually funny and making fun of pop culture and things that you're aware of. That was exciting to me. So I would copy a lot of those drawings in addition to, the comic books, DC, Marvel, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, etc. And just falling in love with the art form and, just kept at it. And then eventually, just kept getting better and better. And people started taking notice, always took notice. Tyree's the artist. And then it was really just out of love and curiosity and just a way to keep myself entertained.
I'm curious if like when they saw that you could draw, right? You drew those pictures and of course adults see it and can see, wow, this is talent, right? Once you're an adult and you realize you either can or cannot do something, it's easy as an adult to see when someone younger can do this thing. Did you also know, like, did you draw it and go, wow, I can draw? Or was it just kind of like you didn't even think about it because you just knew how to do it?
Yeah, I think when you're a kid and I think as a child or as children, we gravitate towards things because we just like doing them. I don't think we ever measure if we're good or bad at it. And especially when you're an only child, like I have no form of comparison. I don't have any brothers or sisters. I mean, I have half siblings, but there's nobody in my immediate family to be like, that's good, that's bad. And then plus, when you're looking at comic books, because there's no comparison, there's nobody to tell me that doesn't look like that comic book. I think my stick figure looks just as good as the fully rendered picture that I'm looking at in the Marvel comic book. I'm like, yeah, that looks exactly like it. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So, like that's, I think as children, you just fall in love. And I think the other thing is this, and I remember this, I would fill up the pages. Like it wouldn't just be like a little picture in the center and then that would be it. Like it would be full of stuff, characters doing all kinds of things. Like it would be like, if it's, generally a kid, if this is a piece of paper, a kid would draw one thing in the middle. I'd have a bunch of little things happening all over the place. And that's how you love it, because you just don't stop.
Yeah.
I just keep going. You just don't stop.
Do you think you got that from reading Mad? Because I had a lot of Correct magazines. Correct was like the competitor to the Mad. And I remember in Correct, there'd always be like a layout where it would have a grand scene of caricatures of all different characters, usually like movie stars and politicians, but buffooning them, lampooning them via like a political cartoon style. And I used to love looking at those because you could look at them for like, more than just a glance. You could look at every little detail. So do you think it was that? Do you think it was like big centerfolds and Marvel Comics maybe, or like a combination of all that?
A combination of all that. I was influenced by it all. Like I was really inspired by Mad Magazine and Sergio Aragones. Mort Drucker was a hero of mine. Like from the beginning to the end. He died during COVID. Jack Davis, etc. But yeah, I used to read all of that stuff, heavily influenced by it. How they did their compositions, and it just looked playful. Like I think when kids are drawing, myself included, it's a form of play. You know, like you think of musicians, you know, when they get together in their jam session and they're just doing, you know, playing little notes. And it's the same thing with artists. You just doodle, like rappers, etc. You just hum some words. Like it's just a form of play. And that was my form of play. And it just fell in love with it.
Yeah, and I think as a kid, like even if you can't quote unquote draw, you know, per se, like as a kid in school, like I remember drawing tons of stuff, and I couldn't draw to save my life. But you are in school and you're bored and you're sitting there and you're doodling, and you know, so it's like it's one of these things that when you're younger, it's like you know, you just kind of do it, and it's like as you grow, you figure out and you start to get the footing in like, wow, this thing I'm really good at this thing, whatever it may be, sports or, you know, for you, the art. I know, and this will move us kind of into what I brought you here for, which is so funny. I told Tyrie on the side, I said, hey, I've watched a lot of your interviews and this is kind of going to be the reverse because you've done all these things and you did this bone thing and it kind of just gets glossed over. I'm going to do the reverse, and we're just kind of going to gloss over this giant career you have, and we're going to really talk about this minor footnote. But I know you were in high school when you got the opportunity to work with Ruthless and to do Bone Thugs and Harmony, E1999 Eternal. I think you were only 17, and I believe you said Donald Cunningham is who helped get you the gig. Can you tell us how you and Donald met and how that opportunity came about?
Yeah, it's a cool and strange story at the same time. So Donald, I forget how much older Donald is from me, but it goes like this. Here's the simple of it. Donald's father and my mother were dating. They dated, and here's the funny part. When they dated, I was in middle school. They had since broken up. Years had passed. Donald ends up working at Ruthless Records while I am still at high school. There's this new group bubbling. It's the talk of the town. They got a new sound. I did not mean to rhyme that. And they're called Bone Thugs and Harmony, and this could be the next big thing. Donald calls me, and he's like, hey, man, what's going on? You still draw? Yeah, like all day, every day. Cool. I might have a gig for you. Cool. I don't hear anything. You know, weeks go by, maybe a month or so. Hey, man, you still drawing? Yeah, yes, I'm still drawing. So, what do you think about doing some album artwork? I'm like, okay, yeah, is paying? Sure. You know, yeah, okay, what is it? It's for Bone Thugs and Harmony. I'm like, oh, okay, I've heard of them. You know, I'm into hip hop. I understand what hip hop music is, the underground. I hear the rumblings too. You know, it's for Eazy-E. That's fun. I'm from Inglewood, LA, West Coast. That's cool. They got a new sound. Like, okay, let's do it. Let me hear it. So I get an advanced copy. He sends me an advanced copy. And when I play here's the craziest part. I literally walk outside to tell my friends in the neighborhood in Inglewood, you know, hey, y'all know about Bone, right? And he's like, yeah, we know about Bone. I was like, I got the album. What? Let me hear that shit. Like, play it right now. And I play it, and of course, you all being Bone Thugs fans, you can imagine. I'm sure you remember the first day that you heard it. It was just like, what is this?
Oh yeah,
like it just blew your mind. You're just like, this is that shit. So we're jamming to this stuff the whole time, like even while I'm in school. So long story short, we put together. So that is, I mean, because I'm sure you have more follow-up questions, but that's how it started.
Yeah.
Like I said, Donald's father, my mother, were dating. We stayed in contact. You know, he reached back out because he remembered I drew, and he pulled me into the project. You know, shout out to Donald for that.
Yeah, Donald is somebody I have contact with, and I bug this man on the regular, and he's humbly takes care of all my crazy fan requests of this thing that he did so long ago. He's a great guy. When he brought you on, did he explain exactly what he wanted you to do or what you'd be doing? Like, did you have any idea what you were getting into, or is it just like, sure, I'm in for whatever?
Yeah, no, I mean, Donald basically art directed the thing. Like they Ruthless, it was a crazy time. Like if you've seen the Straight Outta Compton documentary or the biopic, where they have during the part where Eazy-E has been discovered that he has AIDS. This was during that time. So, which is, it's crazy to actually live it in real time. And then his wife Tamika at the time is taking care of things. So Donald is fielding a lot of stuff, like he's fielding stuff from Easy E through Tamika and then down the line.
Yeah.
So so yeah, he basically art directed the thing. He was like, oh, we're going to do some because he remembered I was into crazy creatures and all that stuff at the time. Like I grew up on like special. I actually wanted to be a special makeup effects artist at some point. So I'm looking at Rick Baker and Rob Bottin and K&B brothers and like all kinds of crazy shit. All right. And he remembered that I had that kind of style, and he was like, dude, this would be perfect. We want to go. He was like, he was like, no, they don't worship the devil, but we want to go deep. We want people to believe like that this is a thing in the background. Like that was the whole art direction, right?
Yeah.
So I just went in on it. So he, like I said, he art directed it. I just plugged and played.
I know the first kind of piece that you had started with was actually one of Bone's biggest singles outside of the CROSSROADS was First of the Month, and you did those like iconic airbrush skeletons that, us as Bone fans for 30 years, that's something that you kind of just like did, and I'm sure it's like one of a million things you've done, but for us, those airbrush skeletons have gone the distance. And I know the first draft, and this is something a lot of our listeners may only know because I dropped it on them recently, but that first draft featured like the skeleton and one of the girls, and I know that first draft didn't make the cut. Do you just kind of remember the process of going through that First of the Month cover from beginning to end and what got you there? And I've always kind of been curious how the rejection of the initial cover with the girl came about. Like who did that? Was it Ruthless or Donald or Julio?
Yeah, that part I don't remember, like why it didn't fly. And when you're young, that's the first time. That was my first like real money paying client. So I'm like, oh, you don't like it? It's like, ugh. I mean, but it was actually fine. It's just like, hey, it's part of the process. Like I actually had a pretty tough skin, so it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
But it's been so long ago, I don't remember why.
I would assume because Bone isn't They were kind of strayed away from the traditional like money, cash, and hose type of thing. Like they're not known for having like a bunch of like girls all through the videos and stuff like that. But the skull, remained. That airbrush skeleton, remained.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back, if I was just to kind of retrace my steps, and if I was art directing to say like what would be wrong with that piece, I think it would be. It's just one skeleton, one girl, and Bone Thugs-n-Harmony is a group. So you should incorporate more skeletons. I think at the time, one of the members, I forget, he was missing, so it didn't have as many skeletons.
Yeah.
I think he was in jail or something was going on. But yeah, I think it was like include more skeletons as much as possible.
I was listening to an interview, and we'll kind of jump around your time during this project with a few questions, but you had mentioned that you did a sneaker campaign for like the Source at that time, and I know like you're a giant sneakerhead and you're big into sneaker culture. Do you remember that campaign, and was it something for Bone or was it something unassociated, that campaign you did for the Source?
No, so I don't know if you've ever seen this or since you're big Bone fans, but that airbrush skeleton that you're talking about actually ended up becoming a sticker in the Source. So no, I didn't do anything for sneakers in the Source. I think I was just saying that the Bone Thugs work had ended up in the Source, and I wanted that. And then it was the same thing that's on the food stamp, because then the thing, the food stamp postcard.
Yeah.
That artwork, which looks like nothing on the First of the Month cover, but that's how it was repurposed in the Source as a giveaway sticker. I wish I knew which issue it was, but I don't. That's so long ago.
It's pretty crazy that food stamp. When we were talking to Julio, because we've actually had Julio on the show, and he. Actually, I believe Donald sent me one of the food stamps, and Julio said, hey, we received a letter that we needed to stop using these food stamps because they look too legitimate, and we were kind of kind of on the edge of like forgery right here with food stamps, and yeah, so it's like a lot of them got destroyed. There's not many of those kicking around, so that's pretty crazy that you know, that whole piece. But what a fun time, and all that promo stuff that, you know, went into Eternal, you know, at that time was just so crazy. And Julio actually, he's who put us on, you know, to you, because when we were talking to Julio, something that, and I was going to ask you this later, but because we brought him up, he had mentioned the don't give props to the devil. And we were talking about how, you know, Eternal is so iconic, right? Because maybe not now with the internet and everything we're used to, but that at that time with the backwards passage and the map, and you needed to use the passage to know how to use the map and get the number, and, you know, the spine having those messages, it seems so simple. If you were to show a kid that today, it'd be like, all right, big fucking deal. But when we were kids, it was like, did you guys find the hidden message in the spine? The believe in the last days? And it was such a big deal. And Julia was like, yeah, you know, Tyrie came up with the don't give props to the devil, because we had asked him. And we were curious if you remembered, you know, that piece and why, you know, the don't give props to the devil story.
No, I don't. That's the crazy part. But I could totally see myself be like, you know, again, with my Christian upbringing, probably being like, yeah, this is fun and everything, but yeah, let's downplay it. Yeah, I could see myself doing that, but
that makes sense. No, that makes sense, because we were like, just like, this is such a strange message, and, you know, kind of hidden per se in that spine. And he was like, that was Tyrie. You know, we were sitting there messing around, and he's just like, yo, man, don't give props to the devil. So you know, that's kind of who put us on to you.
Thanks, Julio.
Yeah, Julio's the man. He also gets harassed by me often, so good dude. You know, you had mentioned at that time you were working on the packaging. You just said the sticker and everything. Was it just the albums, or was there anything else that you had done for Ruthless or Bone at that time? Any other magazine stuff or anything like that you were attached to?
No, it was purely, you know, first of the month, CROSSROADS, Eternal, you know, CD, inside booklet, and then whatever promo stuff they kind of used artwork to kind of repurpose and you know, leverage and allocate in other places. But that's it. I didn't do any more work for Ruthless for any other bands, groups, artists, etc. I've done stuff for other artists, you know, throughout the years, but that was never really a concentration. I think, you know, because, like, again, that was high school. At that point in my life, you know, I think you've heard that story. Once I saw how much money DJ Unique got, I was like, yeah, forget visual arts. I got to be making some music.
Yeah. I saw that in the interview where, you know, you found your name in the credits, and it was kind of like, wow, you know, I made a lot of money. And then you found out like Unique, and it kind of pushed you to the production field. And actually, it was one of the questions that I had when you started playing around with production and you know, pushing your music and everything. Was it ever a thought to try to like go to Ruthless or push anything to Ruthless, like, because you had that connection, or did you never really go down that path?
No, by the time I had, okay, like, think about the timeline, you know, the time I do the music versus, do the artwork versus the time it actually comes out, then the time I actually get my music equipment, to the time I learn the music equipment, to the time I'm actually proficient enough to actually put some music out that would be suitable for music, you know, standards. That's like 2 years. And I think Donald had probably moved on at that point, and the type of music that I was making was not in line with music, Ruthless's, you know, roster and aesthetic.
Right.
You know, I'm coming in at that point with, you know, what we call backpacker type hip hop. You know, like that. It's like, remember will.i.am and the Black Eyed Peas, or will.i.am's first group? You know,
oh yeah.
It's like that type of music. And you remember, I don't know if you remember, but they were signed.
Yeah.
will.i.am was on Ruthless at what point?
Yeah.
And he got kicked off of Ruthless because of that very point. It's like, this is not the type of music that we make. And then you see will.i.am reinvent himself and become, you know, global superstar. And, you know, he switched it up. Me, I did not switch it up. You know, I was like, no, this is actually the kind of music I'm into. And I stayed that course, but, you know, to my detriment, I guess, because I never got a record deal. I actually did make some money in music. I probably made all the money back that I spent. But my first love was always visual arts. So that's once it just came full circle. I left for money, which is something that I would advise people not to do, especially when you leave art forms. For me to leave the visual arts to go into musical arts for money, I think that was a terrible choice. But again, I'm young and stupid. So when I finally realized, no, your true love, your true passion is what you've been doing since you were 3 years old, when you were discovered in the church drawing Jesus getting crucified on the cross. That's what you should be doing. So when I returned to that, visual arts welcomed me back with open arms, and I've been in it ever since.
Yeah, it's kind of an expanded thing for me to say this, because I became very familiar through all your interviews, but I will say I found it very commendable that, like, similar to your story about you weren't willing to make a bunch of just like club bangers to get a deal. You seem to be a guy that you really stand on your values, and you haven't seemed to be somebody that was willing to bend your values just to get ahead. Like, you seem very driven to stand on your values and morals, and I think that's commendable, because in any form of entertainment, it's very easy to lose yourself for the check. And as I watched all your different interviews, and of course I'm watching them to try to pick these bone things, but I'm hearing just your different trials and tribulations in entertainment in general, and much like you not bending for the music. Like, I noticed you're very value driven, and you were not willing to bend in certain situations just for a check, and I think that's a very commendable quality that you have.
No, thank you. Honestly, it could just be because I'm hard-headed. Like,
hey,
I think I'm just hard-headed. Once I made my mind up that I don't want to do something, I'm definitely not going to do it. It doesn't, like, it's going to take a lot of money for me to be like, you know what? Okay, I'll just change my mind. Like,
Well, just real quick before we get off the topic, the groups and the music that you had made, the backpacker music, did any of it like come out? Because on our channel we like obscure bone related things. It doesn't have to be directly bone, but if it's bone related, even that kind of entices us. Is there any titles, any names out there?
I mean, if it exists, but no, the short answer is no, nothing came out. It was all indie. I mean, it came out, but like I said, we never signed any record deals. I had an independent record label, so we could put out our music. We made $0. It was a tax write-off, if anything. But yeah, my group, it was called EMPC. I can't even remember what that stood for. It was myself and my guy Sean Webb, another friend of mine who actually is still in music, Devin Penzella. We did our thing for a little bit independent, but in terms of any official releases or music videos or anything like that, no.
Was that the one, or was it later on? I know you had mentioned at one point that you had an idea that the Gorillaz ended up beating you to, where it was going to be like an animated music like hybrid, and they beat you to it, but you had this in your mind before that came out.
Yeah, no, that's good research. Yeah, I was trying to think of a way to market our group, but a way that would utilize my skill set of visual arts. So I was in college at the time. I'm taking animation electives, even though I'm on track to getting an English degree. But while I'm in there, that's when I'm like thinking about, like, this will be dope if we had the cartoons and the rap. Like, I haven't seen that like done correctly. So yeah, I was formulating this thing. We actually did make a short film. I put it on Atom Films. Atom Films no longer exists. Yeah, remember that. That's a long time ago. That predates YouTube. And then I remember the guy at Atom Films, he was excited. He was like, "You got some more of this?" Like, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I got some more." Yeah, I don't have any more. But yeah, we were going to use that as a vehicle to promote our music. And Gorillaz came out, and Gorillaz did what Gorillaz did, and I was like, "Oh fuck, well they did it already." But I mean, those are way more established. Jamie Hewlett, Gorillaz, like, that's way more established than what I was doing. So I couldn't be too mad at it, but it was just like, yeah, but it was good that was in the ether at the time. that somebody was like, hey, we can do something different that'll shake up the music industry. And there hasn't been anything like Gorilla since.
Yeah, that was. I remember being a kid and Gorillas happening, and it was amazing. And there was a lot of mystery behind like Gorillas, though the way there is for us with Bone, right? Like it was like, who are these people? Does it switch up? Is it, are they even real people? Like Gorillas, there was a lot of cool mystery behind that as a kid, and I often feel as if, and this will tie into a question I have later, but I often feel that a lot of that type of mystery is what's missing now in music and entertainment in general. And as good as the internet has been for us, it's a double-edged sword, because it's really easy now to just Google who's in Gorillaz and you got your answer. Whereas when I was a kid, it was like nobody knew who it was. So that kind of stuff is like, that's that stuff that we had as kids that can't be reproduced now for today's kids. They just wouldn't understand it. So we started to talk about the stuff that you did in the actual Eternal artwork. And, there's so many different artists that were involved with that artwork. We, of course, talked about Donald and Julio, but also there's an artist named Quentin Frost who was responsible for a lot of the 3D rendering on the cover. And he actually went on to work with Disney and DreamWorks. So it's hard to keep track of who did what inside of that artwork. Besides doing the first of the month, and you did the original disc design itself, was there anything in the booklet that you did? I've often wondered, like, there's a couple little like gargoyle demons in the corner of the books, and like a Mr. Ouija logo, and
those are me.
Yeah, that I was curious about that, because when Julio and Donald were both like, hey, he did a lot of the hand drawn stuff, and so I was curious if that was you.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, man, that's very cool. That's very cool that, again, so many people, like I just said, played a part in this. And, you went on to do what you're doing. Like I said, Quentin Frost, also very successful in 3D animation. Julio continues to, work in art. So it's like this project kind of, helped platform so many people and get them going. When I was talking to Quentin, he goes, that cover, the technology was so much different back then. He's like that cover took hours and hours to render, and I actually had way more skulls and stuff on the ground, but I had to remove so many because it just couldn't handle it. And he's like, and now we could render something like that in moments. Yeah. And Julio had sent me a very enhanced, like, large resolution copy of that, and I was able to zoom in, and in the steel beams of that, Quentin Frost like snuck his initials on the steel beam, and some other people, and I just think that's some of the cool mystery that that's in that now us as 30-year fans, I'm able to nerd out and bring the artist on and talk about this type of stuff. So so roughly how long did it take from start to finish, like the Eternal artwork? Like, how long were you invested in that project before it was like, okay, you're in it, and then, hey, you're done, you're out of it?
A few months. Initial sketches on paper, small thumbnails, just the general ideas, then go into comp. I actually was trying to get to comp as quickly as possible. So that first one, like you said, with the skull and the woman for first of the month, did that pretty quickly, and then it was like, okay, let's switch it up. And then the final one, again, same process: thumbnails, comp, pencil drawing. I forget how big that piece is. I have it in storage, but it's it's like about this big, big around. So
the disc artwork.
Yeah, both of those pieces are about on the same thing. The disc piece is bigger than you'd think. It's not, it's not small. And the other crazy thing about the disc piece is it's actually in full color.
Yeah, it's blue.
It's
yeah.
On the disc, on the disc itself, you see it's lasered etched in, but the actual artwork is in color. It's got a black background. The skulls are, skull color, etc. But yeah, I'd say like 3 months, maybe. Something like that.
What was the working conditions as far as like where you were doing this? Like, did the three of you work together in like an office or anything, or were you doing this all homebound?
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm a teenager. I'm still in school. So,
Yeah.
I'm at my mother's house on my drafting table making a mess. And then I think when Julio was putting it together, we would meet at Julio's or at Donald's apartment at the time and just for the compositing of all this stuff, just to kind of look at it.
Have you had contact with Donald or Julio in any recent years?
Oh yeah, yeah. Donald, I talked to him. Julio, I haven't talked to Julio in years, only because I just don't have his contact. But I need to. It'd be good to catch up,
I
see what he's up
I
to.
got you. I will put you guys in contact because he's a great guy, man. I he's been so awesome. Just kind of like being there for all my stuff. He's like, I do other stuff, right, man? Like, I did some Easy E artwork. I'm like, yeah. Let's Eternal though. Tell me some more about Eternal, Julio, please. So, as far as like what you were doing, especially being, a 17-year-old kid, and you had said Donald was a little bit older, Julio was older, how did they feel about your artwork? I mean, obviously they liked it and they kept it, but I mean, did they kind of put you back to the well? Did they keep pushing you to go back and make things better? Or were you kind of just like killing it immediately and they loved it, like the disc art and stuff like that?
Um, I th- I can't remember. I think it was well received. I don't think it was too much pushing. I think maybe on the booklet, I might have. I think maybe the first rounds are probably a little safe. Like you said, the gargoyle and the sun and all that. And it was like, nah, go crazy. And then yeah, went crazy. Um, and then maybe some stuff like if I think something that I was unhappy with would be like, the little characters on the first of the month cover because it covered up all the work that was done with the skulls. So when you look at first of the month and then in the the big O, those characters were smashed down into like this little fish-eyed lens thing, and all that work wasn't seen.
Right.
That was all for me. That was just like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
um,
It's almost like they dropped a big overlay over your grand piece.
yeah. So those characters surrounding it, like that was kind of like an afterthought. Like, oh no, we're going to do it with this because I think that was like either one of the Bone members or Easy or somebody was like, no, we want all these little scenes with these other little characters, and that's why I would be honest to say that's why they're crudely drawn because I was actually not happy to do this other stuff because it's like you detracted from it's distracting from the main piece of artwork that I thought was going to be on the entire cover. So yeah, but in terms of the notes, I think that would probably be the only note. And like I said, I forget where that came from. Came from high. I don't know, but that's the only one where I was just like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I and for everybody listening, because people have been asking about what we're talking about, I will make sure, guys, to post it up. I have a picture of the original first of the month. It's actually on Tyrie's Instagram as well, and the original disc art that he's talking about that is in blue is also. But I will post them up for you guys. You had said that this was like the first big like gig, right? Like this is what got your feet wet as far as like big industry gigs.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, little teenager, like not even of legal age to do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
So that kind of brings me into when you were done with this, you're a couple months, and I know you're in school, college is coming in your future, things like that. Was there an opportunity to do more, or was this kind of like a one and done? Like, did Donald ever talk to you about doing more over at Ruthless? Like, what was like kind of next after that?
No, it was more like I said, I left visual arts to really just chase the money in music production. Like I was just like, oh, visual arts isn't worth enough, you know. Like I've told this story. If I got paid $10,000 to do the cover at my young age, which is good money, and we're talking about in the '90s, mid '90s, like whoa, 10 grand for a teenager,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. But
Right.
then I hear DJ Unique gets $250,000. I'm like, how can I get $250,000? Oh, he makes beats. I got to learn how to do that, right? But you quickly learn. Well, DJ Unique is musically line. He actually knows how to produce. He's been doing this for a lot more. He's put in his 10,000 hours,
Right.
Whereas I had put in my 10,000 hours on visual art. So here I'm coming in at 0 hours, trying to step into his arena, thinking I'm going to make $250,000 in the next year. And that's just not going to happen. That's not reality, so everybody's got to put in their 10,000. Sometimes you get lucky and you might cut something in, but yeah, that wasn't the case.
Did at that time, did you get a chance to ever interact with like Bone or Tamika or anybody in the office? Or
Yeah, I met Bone at a studio in Hollywood. I forget the name. Like literally got high the moment I walked in. Fucking cloud of weed smoke. Like like literally didn't have to pick up one joint and you're already high. But yeah, I met him at a studio. Donald brought me through. They were like, "Yo," and Donald's introduced me. "Hey, this the guy that you did the work. That shit was fire. You want to hit this?" I'm like, "I'm already high. No, I'm good." So awesome. Yeah, I met him one time.
I got a question on some of these people with artificial intelligence, these AI chatbots. It gives you some raw, like the information about Eternal is completely wrong. Or at least I think so. And I just want to run some of these names past you. It attributes the art team for Eternal to Ron New Money Brooks and Ross Conkel. Have you ever heard of these people? Ross Conkel? And it also says that the original album cover for Eternal was a Ouija board. Like the album cover was just a Ouija board, and it caused the controversy, and it caused the art team to have to go back and then create the album cover that we know now. I'm not saying any of this is true. I'm saying this is the AI hallucinating, inventing reality. But I just wondered if Ron New Money Brooks, like, where does it even come up with this stuff? And Ross Kunkel and a Ouija controversy.
I don't know those names. Donald could confirm or really confirm or deny, because like I said, he was the art director. He's the conduit between the entire art team and Ruthless. So he would, if those are in fact true, but clearly not, because it says they are responsible for, like, that is automatically wrong. Like, Donald is at the top, it's Julio, it's me, and then like you said, the guy that did the 3D work, Quentin Frost, right?
Yep.
Outside of that, I don't know these people.
I couldn't find anything on them either. I don't know if you ever chat with these chat bots to see what it knows. It's like a pastime now for me, just to see what it comes up with.
It's hilarious.
Speaking of Donald, like Julio credited Donald with a lot of the really, really creative stuff that came from the artwork. He's like, that's who came up with like the reverse passage and the map and like, I mean, even now, as crazy as things are, like to think about, you got this reverse passage that he wrote, and you have to decode this passage. This passage will walk you through the map. The map will give you a series of numbers. The numbers turn into a phone number. You call the phone number. There's a message for Eazy-E. That's incredible for 95. I don't give a shit how incredible the lifetime we live in 2024 is. That's incredible for right now. I'm just like, it's still mind-blowing. Like, I try like hell to get Donald Cunningham on here, and I know he's this close, man, because I want to pick his brain. But I'm just like curious for you as a young man around somebody like that. I mean, is that man is he ultra smart? Is he just like, what is it that allowed him to know how to fucking do that? I mean, that's insanity.
Yeah, Donald. I mean, hopefully you do get him. Donald was if I remember correctly, he was going to be an engineer. He has that mathematical mind, very extremely intelligent, extremely book smart, and he could totally, as he proved, he could totally make something like that. So yeah, no, Donald is he's damn near a genius.
Yeah,
so,
crazy.
Yeah, that's all him.
Yeah, it's crazy because, as kids, right, 1995, when this thing comes out, as kids, the assumption is, especially back then, that the artist has so much to do with their artwork and these things, right? So the illusion that was created over at Ruthless worked for so many years. Like, we were like, there's this passage and these guys believe in this thing. And then my show is actually the one that kind of told the kids that Christmas and Santa wasn't really real, and it all came out that this guy Donald Cunningham came up with this stuff, and it's just so amazing when you break down the secrets of that artwork. So yeah, man, it's like that piece and all the interviews that I've watched, because you're known for so many things that you've done, that this little piece is so, glossed over, and rightfully so, looking at, your catalog and your resume. But I was like, man, we're going to dig in more here. But, moving kind of past that piece, I think an important part of your story that, I've kind of skipped around, that I did want to touch on is when you were going to college, you were either going for law or maybe to become a lawyer, and that path changed like huge, and I'm just kind of like curious, like why that came about, and like how different Tyree's life would be if it wouldn't have changed, because you're a successful guy. I feel like if you would have continued in that path, you'd be successful no matter what. But like, how different is Tyree's life if he doesn't get out of the law field?
I mean, look, I success is relative, right? Like, I sit currently as an industry leader. I'm directing a feature film right now at Sony. It's not a lot of people that get a chance to direct not only a feature film, but an original feature film, animated feature film on top of that. Think of the history of animated film. A black man, Peter Ramsey, just won an Oscar for his work as one of the directors on Into the Spider-Verse, 2 years ago. He's the first black, male or female, to win that award. And we're talking about in the entire existence of the animated feature film category. And here I am, like I said, directing one. So yeah, I'm super blessed to be here. Of course, I worked incredibly hard for it. But again, it was always it was me returning to my first love and then maximizing that. Did I ever think that I would be here, when I was in there drawing these little stupid pictures, doodling? No, I had no idea. But here I am, because I kept following the path. Had I followed the lawyer path, I don't know, I'd probably be driving an Aston Martin, living in the hills, doing corporate takeovers, like probably. I don't know. But my whole thing was, it's funny, the same skills that I was using, in preparation for law school, which was majoring in English, even though I do work in a visual arts film, you'd be surprised how much more talking I actually do than drawing at this level. So it's a lot of, politicking, communicating, selling, collaboration, playing nice, all these things. It's really credited, I would say, to my college education, my upbringing, and being able to play well with others.
Yeah, I believe as well, like, and I this isn't a direct quote. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but, it was basically like, hey, you and your craft are a daily investment, and, you're either going to work on that every day or you're not. And your advice to your 13-year-old self was, get in there and do it faster, do it sooner. You're going to get where you want. Like, don't wait for these things. And it's easy advice to say, right? Like, it's easy for people to just be like, hey, you got to get in there and do it every day and you'll get what you want. But like, you are a true like example of investing, reinventing, cause the parts that you and I know that I'm kind of glossed over was, you went from the art to the, you jump back into basketball at one point, back into law, you jump back, and then still ended up back over in animation. So you've kind of like dipped in and out and reinvented yourself. But a large opportunity that came for you that really, I think, helped set you up in a big way was the opportunity to work at Bob's Burgers for as long as you did. I was curious how that opportunity came to you, and where you ended up and how you ended up on that team.
Yeah. So what is this? 2000? Yeah, I can't remember. Well, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's like 2010, maybe around there. So anyway, I just made this crazy animated video that caught fire. I did it for BET, and it was called Read a Book. This thing was like a parody of Little John crunk music, but it was like you mix crunk music with schoolhouse rock, right? So it was like read a book, read a book, read a motherfucking book, read a book, right? And it was insane. We did this with BET. It premiered on 106 in Park. The announcers actually announced this. The audience didn't even know what the hell was happening. It was like, hey, we're going to look at this new video. It's called Read a Book, y'all. And they played this thing, and they get out of it, and they're like, oh, okay, right? So, long story short, that thing caused a reverberation throughout the animation industry. That became my calling card. You're like, wait, who did Read a Book? Get him in here, right? So I was eating off that for years, but where I ended up, a good meeting for me was actually going to go meet with the people at Bob's Burgers when it was just starting up. So like they had already did their pilot presentation to Fox. It was getting buzz around town that this was going to be the successor to The Simpsons. I liked the humor when I saw the pilot. I'm like, if you've never seen the Bob's Burgers pilot or test, please go look at it. It's funny. Tina was actually a boy named Daniel at first. So go check it out. It's pretty funny, but you see the promise of what it could be. And I recognized that promise, and I was just like, hey, I want to be a part of this. So it was funny because the producer at the time was like, you sure you want to work on this? Like, is this your thing? I'm like, hell yeah, this is my thing. She didn't feel like I was, like that was my type of humor, but I'm into all kinds of shit. So yeah, I joined the team as a board artist. Quickly moved up to an assistant director, and then moved up to director, and then spent 8 years total there, directed 32 episodes, left with my jersey in the rafters, and then moved on directly, like I said, where I'm at now for the past 5 years at Sony, working on this animated feature film, my first. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah, man, I was gonna say your story over at Bob's Burgers really is like a bottom to the top kind of thing. I mean, you started in season 1 as like the sole black artist working on the storyboards and moved your way up to director. And when you started there, like, did you feel like the storyboard and like where you're at was kind of where you were gonna be, or being the driven guy that you are, did you know like, hey, I'm gonna move myself up in this, like I'm gonna be the guy here?
Oh yeah, no, that was always the plan. Yeah. I mean, in our industry, in animation, the path to director is you have to storyboard. And then storyboard, depending on the pipeline, there's a lot of different pipelines, and some places have more barriers to entry. But yeah, it'll be like some places have storyboard supervisor after storyboard artist, and after storyboard supervisor, maybe you get assistant director after that. Or sometimes they don't have assistant director, then you can move to director. Then there's supervising director, right? So, but yeah, it was always like, no, director. And then plus, yeah, I was confident in my skills. Like I knew what the show was, the pipeline or the drawing style and pipeline for primetime style animation is, for myself, is pretty easy. So I just knew exactly how to do it. And plus, I understood the humor. Understood the show very quickly. I mean, I tried some ambitious things, and they did appreciate the ambitious things. But it's always like, I'd rather you pull me back than ask for more. So that was always the approach. And then it got recognized. And then when there was an opening, I came in and killed it. First episode, I think the first episode I did was a Thanksgiving, one of our first Thanksgiving episodes. I've done like 3 or 4 of those. Bob's Burgers has like holiday, not specials either, just holiday episodes. And I've done some pretty legendary ones, if I don't say so myself. But look, it was a fun ride. Learned a lot from all the staff, not just the storyboard artists in my crew, but the writers, the producers, executives, production, the whole nine. Great experience over at Bento Box. They're still making Bob's Burgers now. I think I left it like season 8. I think they're like on 13 or 14, and a movie. I think when I left, they were just writing the movie. And then 3-4 years later, it comes out. I'm still working on my movie. Like their movie came out before me. Like it's crazy. I got another 3 years to work on mine. So like, think about this. I worked on Bob's Burgers for 8 years. That yielded me 32 episodes, 2 Emmy nominations. Over an 8-year period of time on my movie, that'll yield me 1 movie. So the process of animation, it's pretty crazy, pretty insane, but the rewards are great.
There you go, Matt. There's a little our co-host Matt is a large Bob's Burger fan, and I was like, hey, feel free to geek out on this if you want. He's like, no, we're here to talk about Bone, but I'm glad we got to talk about it because he's a fan. What was it that made you actually end up leaving there? Was it just bigger opportunity? Did you feel like you needed to leave to grow? Had you kind of hit the ceiling for yourself? Like, what was it that pushed you to move on?
Yeah, no, all the above.
Yeah.
You know, there's like, for instance, over on The Simpsons, I think The Simpsons is damn near on like season 30, maybe somewhere around there. It's like the longest running television show, live action or animated ever. And there's people that have been working on there since they were like, in college or high school and stuff like that. And as cool as these shows are, and same thing for Bob's Burgers, like I said, I'm at season 8, but I could already see the path of just staying here forever. And yeah, great show, great people, but my artistic cravings span way beyond than just making Bob's Burgers. I've already flipped enough burgers. It's time for me to go move on, and see what else is on the menu.
I touched on it a little bit earlier, but I know you're very deep into like sneaker culture and even fashion. And I was just wondering where that love stemmed from, and if you've ever got the opportunity to work on any of the sneaker lines or fashion lines that you're a fan of.
Oh, that love, it's in my DNA. I come from a family of people that are very proud of who they are and take care of themselves and their appearance. It's funny, I'm looking at this on the side of me right now, but I have like these that kind of dates me, but these photo albums. Actually, I'll pull them over just so you can see what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to flip through them, but just so you can understand. But when I say I come from a line of people that care and have been doing it forever, I mean it. And I have the photographic proof of it. But see this?
Wow. Oh shit.
These are photo albums, and it's literally documentation of Black fashion throughout the eras.
Wow.
Like, I swear to God, like it's all here.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's been passed. That's 2 generations worth of books that have been passed down to me. So I am the keeper. One day I will give those to my son, and hopefully he'll give those to his family, and vice versa. But that's where it started. Just seeing my So funny story. When I was little, my grandmother, when I mentioned I used to go to church with my grandparents.
Yeah.
Even at that age, 50, 60 years old, whatever she was at that time, when I'm little, before we go out to church every Sunday, we had a Polaroid camera, and she'd be like, take my picture. She wanted to get a picture of her outfit. My grandmother had been doing that before I was born, when my mother was a child. Take a picture. She was like, if my grandmother, I actually have a show based on some of this stuff, but she would be an Instagram influencer. She totally would. Because she's been doing it. It wasn't even, like I'm saying, it wasn't even for others. It was for herself. But when she stepped out into the world, she wanted to be her best self. So I carry that with me from head to toe. Sneakers in particular was a big thing for me because of this guy in the back, Michael Jordan and Mars Blackman. When I was into shoes before then, but Michael Jordan and Mars Blackman, the reason why it hit me so hard is because Spike Lee was actually the first example that I had at the time of a Black filmmaker. I didn't even know we made films. Today, like you said, because of the internet and social media, etc., all this information is pretty easy to obtain. But if I wanted to find out, hey, who is a Black filmmaker, that wasn't even possible back then. Right. But when I saw Gotta Have It, on Skinamax, in my young 12-year-old self, and I see these pair of Air Jordans, and he's talking about, and they look so cool, it freaked me out. Then it made me, I wasn't even into basketball at the time. I'm like, okay, well, who's Michael Jordan? I researched on Michael Jordan, and it's an artist on the basketball court. You've never seen anybody play like that. You've never seen anybody with that style, that swag, and that just that just all influenced me. I swear to God, I grew up in the greatest era ever. We're talking about Michael Jordan. We're talking about hip hop, the golden age of hip hop.
Oh
That
yeah.
gave us Bone. That gave us Eric B. and Rakim. They gave us Wu Tang. They gave us Snoop and the whole West Coast movement, NWA, etc. I could go on and on. But like I lived these things in real time. So again, like I talk about the fashion of my ancestors, you know, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on. Here I am in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and still carrying on. Like I just still stay in tune with all of these things. Like my antenna is always up, just looking and trying to find the cool in things and trying to understand like why am I attracted to it? Why does it work? I even look at terrible things. Why does this work? Why is this bad? But I'm just always because I'm just very observant. That's how visual people are. I'm just very observant. I look, I see how it incorporate that into my style, anything that I'm working on or doing. Just a sponge, man. Just a sponge.
Yeah. You know, you've been able to build up a following and just a lifestyle around so many things. I mean, like we've talked about, an animation director. You've been a content creator for brands like Nike and Red Bull. You know, you're a sneaker culture guru. Is there anything that you want to do that you haven't done that is like in sight? Like, I'm doing this next. When I have the open time, this is what I want to do next.
Oh yeah, live action. I want to direct some live action music videos, interstitial. I want to design some clothing. I want to get into a capsule. I haven't been able to do that yet. Footwear, so apparel, footwear, accessories, wherever. Those two things are big on my radar. And then actually something I was able to do over the last year. I want to get more into real estate. But not from the point of just, you know, buying, flipping. Like I want to build a house from the ground up, like of my design. I want to work with an architect. So I want to get into more environmental space work. Like I want to see spaces. Maybe I want to even make an experiential event, an activation that it requires a bigger build out. Like I want to get into more like exterior work, like stuff that doesn't necessarily live on the screen,
Yeah.
tangible. Like I have a laundry list of things that I have not done that I want to do for sure.
That's cool. You want to bring things to life. When I'm not being a bone nerd, one of my side jobs is I design different packaging and whatnot for cannabis companies. And I remember creating like a box for a cart, and it was just really, they let me really go further than most places, like really explore the space. So I got, and part of this is the bone artwork actually, I got stuff on the inside, and you got to pull things out to find little secret things. And it was really something the first time, you know, I made it in Photoshop and sent it off, and then they sent me this real tangible thing that I held in my hand, and I was like, I fucking made this thing, man. And, you know, to most people, they're just like, cool, man. Cool box, Cecil. And I'm just like, no, like, look at it. Hold this fucking thing. Pull the stuff out.
It.
Yeah.
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 You
No.
can touch it.
You know, we had talked about Bone, obviously, and I know you've done some stuff with Iggy as well, but I was just curious if there's any other, like, artist or anything inside of, like, music that you've done artwork for. You know, you've been so concentrated on animation and shows and things like that, but have you done any other artist artwork?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I did Iggy Azalea's I think it was like her debut mixtape. I did the cover for that again years ago. I did something for an underground group called Baker's Club. That was fun. Did a cool piece for them. A few people have reached out over the years to get me to do stuff, but man, I'm just honestly, I'm just too busy doing this other stuff. I actually would love to do more cover work, but so only so much time and energy in a day.
Yeah. And it's hard when you're an artist. You don't want to put something out that's half effort, or, you know, you didn't get to pull your full you into. Sometimes people ask me to do things, and I'm just like, look, man, I would love to do that, but I gotta really be feeling it to do that, and you're not gonna love it. Like, you couldn't pay me enough to do it. It's not gonna be right the way I do stuff. So music's changed a lot, and something that I actually hear you talk about a lot is the climate of hip hop and where it stands. And often on this show, something we talk about is the transition from physical media to streaming, and how it almost took the charm away from getting that new album and tearing through the package and analyzing the artwork like we've been talking about. Do you feel that album artwork is as important now in 2024 as it was, or is it kind of a throwaway iTunes thumb?
No, it is a throwaway iTunes thumb, but that doesn't mean that it can't be important. Like, artists just need to be more mindful of actually crafting artwork that is worth appreciating. Prime example, Donald Glover's cover for like Redbone or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like that woman, and actually it recently came out that he owes that woman money, but whatever. There's a model on there, and her face, the way she looks, and the headdress that she's wearing, it's just like, that's like art. That's something I actually would want to hang on my wall. Like, so I think, look, I think good work, just cream rises to the top, man. Like, it's just that simple. Like, good products sell themselves. Great products become remarkable. Like, people want to talk about them. They become shareable. It's for a reason. So when I say you, I mean just people in general, just if they put more time and effort, research and development, thoughtfulness, mindfulness into crafting better covers, then there would be a resurgence of people wanting artwork, like outside of hip hop. Remember Iron Maiden covers?
Oh yeah.
Like that art, like this shit's fucking incredible. Like, that's why their shirts and things, the vintage artwork, that shit's dope. And if it's dope, it'll be dope for dope is never not dope. Like, it'll always be dope. And if it's not dope, the kids will let you know very quickly. Nah, that's trash.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Just make some dope shit.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, that the kids today don't get that same rush that I got going to a Sam Goody or whatever and getting that CD and getting to tear it open, and you're reading through the notes and looking at the pictures, and it was like the bigger the booklet, the better it was, because the whole time you listen to the album, you flip through this thing, and that's how you learned who the Donalds and the Tyrees were, because it all came in that booklet. And the kids don't get that piece. In fact, it's like, even music videos kind of seem like, hey, if you're going to release a single now, this is how you got to do it. It's got to be a video. But even that we're getting past, and it's like, if it's not a TikTok, if it doesn't happen in 60 seconds in portrait mode, it could get overlooked. It's amazing the way that the landscape has changed from the time that you did, Eternal to now. And it seems like that's a long time, but 30 years for it to change this much, from the point where physical media is almost irrelevant to where we are. It's what a time. But again, everything it circles back. Everything always circles back. The stuff that was cool to wear becomes uncool to wear, becomes cool to wear again. And hopefully we see that same thing happen inside of physical media. As someone who's so deep into like hip hop culture, and you've seen it go through the changes, like you said, you lived through what we consider like the golden era for us. Are there any current artists now that you really like to listen to, that you're into?
I think what's in my rotation now, Drake is a mainstay. Kendrick Lamar is a mainstay. J. Cole is a mainstay. Newer artists, I've been listening to this guy named Smooth Haynes. He's pretty dope. Ninth Wonder just released a new instrumental album. The stuff that Nas and Hit Boy has been amazing.
Oh yeah, he's still great. All these years, for that guy to be as consistent as he is incredible.
Yeah, man. So I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot. I got a bunch of stuff, because of this digital age. It's not like I actually don't get a chance to really memorize a lot of the stuff, names of songs that I listen to because of that. I don't have a physical thing in my hand. I don't have to, read it, touch it at the same time. So it's kind of like, but I save them to my playlists, and then, I listen to them over and over again, but I don't bother to know the names of songs and some artists, unfortunately. but yeah, I keep my ear to the street or my ear to the stream and
Yeah.
listen, just whatever catches my ear, I'm listening to.
You had mentioned earlier your Emmy nominations, and I noticed that there's places that you actually credit yourself as a two-time losing Emmy director on social media, and just to
Yeah.
be nominated is like an amazing accomplishment on your resume that a lot of your peers will never even get. When and if you finally do win that award, have you ever thought about, hey, this is what my speech would be, this is what I would say? Like, has those thoughts run through your mind?
Nah, nah, it really hasn't. I don't even think it'll be a speech. It'll be like, thank you.
Yeah.
That'll be it. I mean, and the award we could be that's another notch on the belt. That's all it is.
I just got a couple questions before we let you go. I see I actually see our chat room's got a bunch of different questions too that I thank you, John, for writing them all down. But before we jump into them, I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was just a cool thing. But your work's brought you to some really cool places and situations. As I watched your interviews and stuff, I see that you've been able to be well traveled and get yourself into some situations. But one of them that was really cool was you got to check out Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory. And I was just curious how that came about, if you have any cool stories from it. I saw you take a hellified bump coming off that zip line into the wall. Yeah.
That's
So,
funny. Yeah, no, that is funny. The bump looks harder than it actually was. It felt like nothing because you just running into the pads. But so yeah, what is that like? Shit, 07, 08? Like I can't even remember like when that was. But basically, I met a great lifelong friend, a man named Bill Schultz. Bill Schultz at the time was packaging Rob Dyrdek to get his own cartoon, which he did. So the thing that was great about their process was in creating Wild Grinders was the name of the show. Is I literally saw it from the beginning to be like, hey, Rob, love your story. We could actually get a cartoon made from this, and watching that manifest, like putting together a summit at the Fantasy Factory, bringing in international players, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, it's people, toy companies, Mattel, Hasbro, etc., and have all these people at the Fantasy Factory as we pitch this project, then actually have people bid on it. There's like a little bidding war, and ultimately Nickelodeon wins. And then we make 52 episodes, and then it carries on. Like to see that happen, like from the germ of an idea and be in those rooms from the beginning and watch it manifest, that was incredible. But yeah, Rob, dude, Rob is that is a genius as well. Like Rob is a genius.
Incredible. So smart.
This in so much energy. And I gotta shout out this another partner, Tracy Tubera. Tracy comes from the toy world, or he came from the toy world at the time. And I was brought in because I know animation. And I'm a chameleon when it comes to styles. I can adapt to anything. So they were trying to figure out how to make Tracy's designs work for animation. So I came in and helped that process. But it was just me, Tracy, Rob, Bill, some other people in the room. Christian was another guy, and we were just trying to make this show, make these characters work. We started off with some short films. We packaged those shorts with toys at first. Actually, the toys came before the cartoon, like that. We had a whole process to get this to become a cartoon. And again, like I that's all credit to Bill Schultz. Bill, we've done numerous projects over the years. He's brought me in at the ground level. We've made money together, we've made business together, and we continue to. But yeah, being at the Fantasy Factory during that, it's funny. I was just there for an event because it's no longer the Fantasy Factory, but it was like, the memories of being in this building.
Yeah.
But yeah, but Rob, millions were made out of that building. Like literally multi-millions were made out of that building, and being a part of that was amazing.
Yeah, he's kind of like the definition of that Jay-Z, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Like he really is like next level. It's like anything he touched kind of turned to gold.
Yeah, man.
There's a few questions in the chat. I'm going to see if I can send to our Zoom a picture. They want to know if you were responsible for the skeleton hands that were under the CD tray itself. I don't know if did that load in?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Donald did those.
Okay, that's what I Julio wasn't sure. He was like, I know it wasn't me. He's like, I might have cleaned it up, but I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah, Donald. So what, just to give you even more backstory, I was at the time, I was very traditional, meaning I only wanted to do traditional art. And then Donald and Julio, they're up here using Macintoshes and doing digital work. They're into the future. And at the time, stupid me, because here I am doing nothing but digital now. But they were like, look, this is the future. You're gonna have to get on. You can get on now or get on later. And I chose to get on later. But I remember, I know, I don't even, like I said, I don't even have to look at the picture to know exactly what it is. But I remember Donald doing that on like Illustrator 1 or
Yeah.
like 2, or he had like Photoshop 2 at the time. And I'm like, what the hell is this? He was like, dude, you can do art in this. Like, get on board. I'm like, nah, I'm up here with my airbrush, colored pencils, and making a mess, paint, and acrylics and all this stuff. And he's just like, I mean, he's like, sure, but it's going to happen, right? And he was right. It did in fact happen. But yeah, Donald's responsible for that.
Yeah, that thing is pretty iconic in like bone culture. In fact, you can't see it, but on the overlay right now, on our show, you are in the middle of that circle with the. So I mean, it's become a very iconic bone kind of thing that is carried on for the fans, and that thing is so cool. Like, a lot of people don't know, but it's got like little Morse codes like in it that, with different messages, and it's just really amazing artwork that was put together. John, our co-host, wants to know if there was ever any talks of there being any sort of like cartoon or animation of Bone, the actual Bone Thugs and Harmony, like any kind of cartoon or anything.
Like along the lines of the Jackson 5 cartoon. I don't know if you ever saw that as a kid, but I always pictured that Jackson 5 style be turned into Bone with a more modern look.
Definitely not. Because remember, at the time, it's not like today where you can have Family Guy and American Dad and the Boondocks, where cartoons could be irreverent. And with the material that we're talking about, smoking weed, sex, money, violence, hoes, like the ghetto, murders, like just life in general. That wasn't palpable at that time. Today, could that happen? Hell, easily. But at the time, there was absolutely no talk about that.
Joseph Tech wants to know if there are any Eternal sketches that didn't make it that you have, and if you're willing to share any of those on your social media. I told you guys he shared a couple of them. There's he shared the original first of the month. He shared the original disc artwork. I think you said there was something else. I don't think it's on your social media, but you said you had the originals of something else as well.
Yeah, I don't look, that stuff is in storage. In terms of the original sketches, nah. Like I said, it's pretty much what you saw. And me, knowing me at the time, if it wasn't used, I threw it away. Like I was that type of person, at least back then. It was just like, oh, you don't want it? I kept what was final. So like, yeah, I have the original for the first of the month cover. I don't have the original for those side characters because, like I said, I didn't want to do that. I don't, but actually, I don't have the original for the Gargoyle or the Sun, and that's just because I lost them. And then the CD disc, I still have that too. And then the original comp with the one bone and the lady, I have those 3 pieces of artwork still.
The C, it's crazy because the CD itself, right? We know is kind of like, for its time, it was like, what the fuck is this? When you held it in your hand, it was like, but it's like it did take away from the beauty that is that original. Like the original art is very beautiful, and you lost a lot of that with the translation to that translucent disc. So I'll have to make sure we post that up for everybody. Joseph also want to know if there are any songs from that album that you feel like embodies your artwork from that time, from that album.
That I gotta think on that one. There was one I used to like. I used to run this shit back all the time. I think it was I think it was it E.1999 or was it, wait, hold on. I need to look at the track list to kind of remind me.
Yeah, it's an extensive track list too. It's big.
Yeah, East 1999. The way that came out, because like at the time I had a truck, I had some subwoofers in the back, you know, of course weed smoke was in the air. Like that one kind of killed.
Yeah, and East 1999 had a video, and actually Donald assisted with that video and the imagery and all of the just like the occult kind of spookiness that goes with that video. And there's a lot of hidden Donald shit in that video as well, that it's like you could take it a half a frame at a time and find stuff that you didn't know was there. So, listen, Tyrie, we covered a lot in this interview. I know it was mostly around Bone, but we touched on some other major points as well. I remember, again, at the beginning, I told you, like, this is going to be the reverse of your common Tyrie interview where we focus, and it's, going to be the opposite. But was there anything that we didn't cover in your career that you feel like shouldn't be left out of a Tyrie interview that people should know?
No, not that I not that I know of. I mean, look, yeah, I'm a visual artist. I'm into animation. Like I said, one day, it's definitely is a goal of mine to transition into live action. I want to explore everything and anything that involves the visual arts, and then if I can make some things a reality in 3 dimensions, I want to do that too. But yeah, outside of that, that's pretty much it. I can't tell everybody everything, right? Got to keep some secrets.
Yeah. Hey, it's cool, man, because now, like, it's like all your interviews are a little bit different. Like, I've seen you on interviews where the focus was animation, the focus was sneakers, the focus was, so now you had the one where the focus was 17-year-old high school Tyrie just getting his feet wet, Bone Thugs and Harmony. I can't thank you enough for letting me harass you repeatedly on your Instagram and overlooking that I didn't hit you up like a professional on LinkedIn, and you still answered me on Instagram anyway. You've answered all my questions. You've come on my show. I respectfully thank you so much for taking the time out of your night to come on here and talk a little Bone Thugs and Harmony with us. And I'm sure it is something that you do not need, but if there's anything that our platform can ever do to help Tyrie, please reach out. Please let us know. We would be more than happy to help in any way we can, man.
All right. Hey, appreciate you. And sorry for the back and forth, but extremely busy. You'd be surprised how much time and energy this work takes.
Oh, I bet,
but,
man. Nah.
Glad we made it happen, and I will definitely take you up on your offer to utilize your platform if indeed the need arises. So, hey, Matthew, John, crew, appreciate you all. Hope you learned a lot. Hope you took some inspiration, etc. And if you didn't, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's been really fun. It's been a blast. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyrie. Hey, the chat, fill the chat up with those art emojis for Tyrie. Show some love. We did it again, boys. Another great interview. Tyree Dillihay, thank you, brother. You have a great rest of your night, man.
All right, thank you. I'm out.
There it is. Another one in the books. You know what it is. You know who we be. John, Cecil, Matt, Beyond the Harmony. And the haters can't believe it. They can't stand it. They didn't know what the interview was gonna be, and it was nothing short of greatness. I don't fuck around. Oliver, I hope you were here the whole time and you never have to ask again. I don't know who this guy is. You better fucking know now. You better put some respect on Tyrie's name. Yo, is anything more Beyond the Harmony than an interview like this? John, you got yourself muted. Are you trying to talk to me, Johnny?
My bad. Yeah. Well, first thing I wanted to say was I wanted to give Matt the floor first, just due to the Bob's Burgers connect, and then I'll provide some context afterwards.
I just think seeing someone who is instrumental in the success of two things that are like part of my day to day was a really cool thing, and just to see how, like every artist I've ever met, because I'm super the opposite of being an artist, right? I just consume art. Is they're never just one thing. So he's into all these other interesting things, and that's what makes him a complete artist, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was cool also to just to find out the part I'm taking away from this was, he was talking about the artwork and then he saw that DJ Unique got the big bag. And so he tried to get into that, but realizing you got to put the 10,000 hours in. And that's something that I don't think most people in our generations appreciate. The guys that are slightly over, they understood that commitment to excellence, learning your craft, perfecting it, professionalism, putting in the work, putting in the hours. And I'll even give you this example. A guy that's older than me, I was running off my mouth when I was like 19. And I was like, oh, yeah, I like theoretical physics and I like theoretical math, but, I don't actually like doing the equations. And he told me, he said, hey, listen, if you don't do the equations, you're just a poser. And people that actually did the equations can identify who the real and who the fakes are. So if you want to call yourself, a real physicist or a real mathematician, you can't just theoretically know about it. You have to have done the long form showing your work, going through all the axioms and idioms and the Euclids and all that stuff. You got to put in the work. You can't just pretend. Don't be a pretender. No pretender. No surrender. Don't pretend. Put in the work. Get the 10,000 hours. And I wrote that down. I'm going to figure out what my next thing is going to be. Because if we're going through space and time, we might as well be building our skill set. Another thing, interesting thing for you guys out there, heard a guy say each month I'm learning a new skill. And after the course of 1 year, I got 12 new skills under my belt. If everybody else is just sitting on the couch smoking weed, after a year, I'm going to be 12 times more skilled than them. So that's what I got really out of the Tyrie situation, is just the commitment to excellence. Same with Thin C. Is perfecting our craft, whatever it is, and whatever you do the best you can and rise to the top. Oh, also interesting was the career path for artists. He was mentioning, the storyboarding, and then like the director of storyboarding and the side hand to storyboarding. So like all those different roles, it's kind of neat to know that even in the art field, there's a career path. But then I guess they had that because they know that the artists themselves, as Tyrie stated, Bob's Burgers, as cool as it was, at some point, as an artist, you're going to want more, want something else. How many times can he cook the burger? So a lot of came out of it. That was definitely. Oh, and the Mad Magazine, Crack Magazine, those magazines inspired me too. I don't know if any of you guys out there used to read Mad or Cracked as a kid, but the artwork in that, just the way it was drawn, just captured. It was like nothing out at the time. We see a lot of this kind of stuff nowadays, but at the time it was unique art and it was eye-catching and it conveyed meaning in the form of comedy, but it also informed while simultaneously being satirical, comical, and it snuck the seriousness in behind the jokes, which is what ultimate comedy does. So yeah, that's that. And he made the gargoyle, which is cool too.
Yeah, man. It's I knew a lot because I've sat and I've watched so many interviews kind of building up to this, and of course I've bothered the fuck out of poor Donald and Julio, right? So like these guys are just like, I bet they never in their life thought they were going to be so annoyed by one human fucking being that they just couldn't wait to pass me off to poor Tyrie. Like, yes, Tyrie, have you talked to Tyrie? Cecil, go talk to Tyrie about this shit. He would love to talk to you. Leave me alone. But so I kind of knew what I was getting into, but yeah, there were even things in there that I wasn't aware of. The skull hand thing, I was pretty sure I knew the answer to that. I think I'd had that answered before, but it was good to kind of get it 100% because I know Julio didn't remember who for sure. But like the gargoyle, the suns, the fucking the Mr. Ouija, logo, all that shit. You know what I didn't ask that I should have is the passage itself. I wonder if that's just a font. I wonder if somebody hand did that. I think it's probably a font. Julio would probably tell me it's a font. But yeah, man, it was a really interesting interview. And you want to talk about a you know, I can always tell when I'm in the room with someone that is very intelligent, you know, and you can tell that Tyree's a very intelligent, driven guy, and I think it says a lot about him and his character, just that he was willing to take the time to do this. You know, you're a busy guy, man. You heard the fuck he's doing in like real life, you know, and for him to take the time to, he actually took, Jesus, I mean, what did we talk to him, an hour and a half? Took an hour and a half of his life to sit here and talk Bone on our Little Bone podcast as he's directing, you know, getting ready to do feature films. And, you know, I think that says a lot about his character and who he is. I just want to let people know, by the way, I am opening up the lines. If anybody wants to call in, where we got a couple minutes, I got it at the top of your screen. On Zoom, you can call in. The meeting ID and the passcode 733-570-6161, passcode E.1999. Call in and we'll take a couple callers. Johnny is trying to get me to gift some subscriptions to the Skull and Crossroads Society, and John, it doesn't give me the option. It says that I'm supposed to be able to do this and just go to give 5, and it doesn't. And as much as I'd like to pay for a bunch of people's subscriptions, I think that's a little counterproductive. So it's not letting me gift them out. But we're gonna figure out how to gift out some of these Skull and Crossroads Society subscriptions. Get a couple of you a little taste of it. I want to shout out all our members that I've seen in here that are active members. Of course, our 99th degree. I see Joseph Tech in here showing love. I see Daddy Locks in here. He was showing love. Andy with all the numbers, 1181 985. I saw him in here. You know, so it's like a lot of the Skull and Crossroads Society is in here kicking, and we've been having a lot of fun with that. They've been getting a lot of content before y'all. They got some exclusive content. They're getting to pick out things that are going to happen, the videos you're going to see, some of the questions that we asked tonight. They're getting to pick video content that we're doing. We're really trying to make sure that it's a worthwhile group to be a part of. And you know, we got memberships as low as $3 all the way up to the big baller 99th degree like Joseph Tech, that's $100, and everything in between. So if you guys haven't checked out the membership tab on the home screen of our YouTube page, make sure you check that out. You can also get there quickly by join.beyondtheharmony.com. And yeah, man, help support your boys, bringing you content like this, like Thin C last week, like I might as well say it, HC the Chemist coming next week. Like, you might as well join the Skull and Crossroads Society and help support this type of fucking content that's coming up on 50 episodes and 6 years of Beyond the fucking Harmony. Shout out to RC Thugster. I see RC Thugster in the chat. RC Thugster responsible for bringing you all this great archived news articles that you've been seeing us post up. So what a crazy time to be a Beyond the Harmony fan.
Yeah, and along the lines of the business stuff, I'd like to provide everybody a quote the great Cecil West gave me probably about 10 years ago.
Oh,
and
boy.
He said, and this relates to the persistence that he did with Tyrie and Donald and Julio. And Cecil told me, you get 100% of what you don't ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And so he still lives by it to this day. Poor Tyrie. You know what? You want to know why Tyrie did the show? He did it so you'd stop inboxing him.
He's like, I either got to block this motherfucker or just do his podcast, bro. Which is it? Yeah, you know, that was dropped onto me by the first manager that I had in music outside of my mom. My mom was my very first manager. And then once my group got successful and we got a real manager, I remember he was like doing a contract for a festival we were going to do. And he was like, yo, do you guys want any bottles or any food or anything like that? And I was like, the fuck, you can't get that shit. Like, we're just like the local undercard shit. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, you just asked for it. I was like, nah, they ain't gonna give us none of that shit. He's like, how do you know? I was like, I just know. He's like, well, you get 100% of what you don't ask for. He's like, so if you don't want shit, he's like, go ahead and don't ask for it. He's like, but He's like, maybe you just give it a try. And I was like, all right. And it's a fun story, right? I'm going to tell you this whole thing. So I was like, all right, fuck it. So we do the contract. The three of us sign the contract. He signs the contract. And then he puts together a rider. And for those people that don't know, the rider is your cute list of, I need green M&Ms and this and that. And our rider was like just some simple food, which they have at most festivals. And he wrote one bottle of Grey Goose, and there was another bottle of something else. And this is where I learned the specifics, because we did get the bottles, but they weren't the little baby teeny bottles, but they weren't the fifth of liquor either. It was like the bottle in between. And this is when I learned the specifics of, oh, okay, you also need to be very specific about the things that you want. And this will count in life when you're talking to the universe, when you're talking to your boss, when you're talking to your relationships. Be very specific, because after that, I made sure that I knew that we could indeed get the liquor. And once you do it once, they'll continue to do it. But you better tell them what fucking size you want, or you and the other two guys in your group are going to be sharing a mighty small bottle of Grey Goose. And so I learned you get 100% of what you don't ask for, but you also better ask with specifics. So there's some Cecil West, little bit of history knowledge. And yes, I apply that regularly to my life. Our manager, Trevor, has dropped a lot of wisdom on me, but that was one of the biggest things that I did learn. And it is true. A lot of the guests that we've had on here is because I'm persistent. I follow up. There's a difference between being persistent and being a nuisance. So sometimes I ask people to be on this show and they decline or they say nothing or whatever. And I'll go back and ask and I'll realize, well, the last time I asked was 2 years ago. Let's give it another shot. The fuck? It's been 2 years. You know, I'm not bugging you. I asked 2 years ago. And, you know, there's a couple people still on that list that we're being persistent about. Kermit, if you're listening, I'm asking again, Kermit. I know you saw my most recent message, Kermit. I'm not going to give up. I ain't going to give up, Kermit. It's time, baby. So, yeah, man, I feel great about the show. I'm glad that we're back. I'm glad that we're doing it again. I'm glad that we did Tyrie and Matt got to hear somebody that's Bone Thugs and Bob's Burgers.
Tyrie's been on the list for us since season 1, since we talked to Julio.
Yeah.
And he mentioned Tyrie to us. It's always been in the back of your mind, like, we got to talk to Tyrie at some point, you know, if not Donald Cunningham. And so it just happened, right? So like we've crossed that now. That's under the it's there. It's in our history. That's awesome. I also wanted to say that in the event you guys see DJ Cecil West go live anytime this week, what he may be doing is trying to figure out a way for us to be able to give out some of these memberships.
Yeah,
because there's a way for us to do it. We just haven't figured out how to do it yet. So if you see that notification and it's Cecil live and you want to get a membership, tune in. We can't guarantee that you'll be able to get it, but hopefully we'll figure it out how. We need participants to figure out how we could give them away.
Yeah, I'm following the rules here, and like I said, I followed them, except, you know, it wants me to pay, and I'm like, well, it doesn't really make sense for somebody to give me $5 and me to turn around and give away $5. But then, am I giving the $5 to me? Am I just taking $5 from Beyond the Harmony and putting it back in Beyond the Harmony? What the fuck is going on here, YouTube? I need answers, man. No,
okay, that kind of makes sense. Okay,
we'll figure it out though. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to make it happen. Yeah, man.
Also, the small world too. You know, the fact that Tyrie, Donald's father and Tyrie's mother, you know, knew each other. So like that's how Tyrie kind of got into the mix. You know, to this day, I still haven't heard the At Band Clan album. That's, I think, the group will.i.am was in when he was on Ruthless Records. I'm surprised that, you know, I'm thinking I probably did hear it a long time ago because I was like fanatical for all things Ruthless. But yeah, At Band Clan. And then also, if this is what when he showed his photo album, And he was talking about, he's like, yo, this photo album has like the history of fashion for the last 80 years or whatever it was. I
It was
just,
amazing.
yeah. And I just recently, like for Christmas gifts, I was taking family photos that we had stored at our house. You know, you have relatives all over the country and stuff that you don't always see. And it's like they don't get to see these pictures that you might have been able to look through in the photo album all these years. So now I'm trying to make, like for Christmas to give out to relatives, just these photo album books with pictures like by decade, just so that others could enjoy the photographs, because back then you had to pay for the photographs and it's not like you could distribute them to everybody all the time. So it's a neat gift idea. And just seeing that Tyrie kept that, and also in my family, as people passed on, they passed on their photo albums. And like when you get all these photos, it's like, yo, am I now the historian of the family? And are we the historians of Bone Thugs and Harmony? And and not only that, Cecil's received, like from others, they've passed on their photo collection of Bone Thugs and Harmony to you. Others have passed on, relics of Bone to you. So it's like, now that, if Rob J wanted to do the museum, that's not going to happen now. Maybe one day Cecil's going to have to start the Bone Museum. But that's all I'm saying is I'm happy that the fact that he is in possession of the family photographs, that's like a high honor to be in possession. Like, that's the history of your family line, and to be the protector of that is sacred. So that's another. We were talking about the character of Tyrie, the fact that he's the possessor of all those photos of the family. That's awesome, and the history that it contains of fashion. That's something we don't always think about when we just think of photo albums.
Sidebar, John, business right in front of the whole room here, but it says that that free of charge gift memberships are not currently available for brand accounts, and I believe we're considered a brand account. So that is that, sir. We'll investigate that further, but I believe that's the short answer. Looks like we got a guest. What's it say? Skeletal Melodies. Let's bring them in. Let's see what it is. Dun 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 dun.
By the way, we while he's getting connected, we one of the viewers looked up the EMPC album, and it's out there on SoundClick. So shout out to the Paradox Prophet for finding that. I'm gonna check that out.
Dude, I love that our listeners even go beyond. They do the shit we do, and they heard it in a fucking interview, and they started to Google immediately.
Yep.
All right.
What's going on?
What do we got with us? Sounds like, who do we got?
Hello?
We hear you, we don't see you.
We hear you, yeah, we don't see you. You're on Beyond the Harmony. Who do we got?
It's Skeletal Melodies.
Oh, it's Therese. so is that you, Therese?
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I meant to reply to you, let you know that I did hear your reply to our question of the week that we had last week. I don't know if you wanted to drop that on us today, or if you had other matters to cover with Cecil and Matt, myself.
It can be all of them. Like I said, I'll be responding to those question of the weeks, that voice, because I just can't put it all in the text form. But I definitely, well, before I get to that, I definitely want to talk about what I just witnessed with the guy Tyrie. I think that was a really good interview, and glad to hear his story, and it was good to see how he can go, his artistry can take him in so many different directions. Like, he could do, I didn't hear him mention tattoos, but a lot of people that draw, that's tattoos is like part of that too. So I could see him doing tattoos, like hearing how he done the, doing animation and his love for gym shoes. I thought I was finna hear him say that he was going to or I thought one of you guys would ask him, have you ever thought about designing gym shoes and things like that? Because that's still art, that's drawing and things like that.
Yeah, I'd asked him if he'd got a chance to branch over into footwear or fashion or anything. It sounded like a not yet situation.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty dope, because it would be, yeah. You did say something about sneakers about with this. Okay, yeah, I remember that. So that would be kind of dope if he designed a like eternal thing gym shoe or something like that. So I think that would be pretty dope. If
How crazy would it be if they fucking the 30-year anniversary sneaker and Tyrie did it? That would be wild. I'm gonna keep bugging this man and put him on like, hey, 30 years for the Eternals coming up next fucking year, man.
You know what's crazy? It's
fuck. I meant to mention too the fucking re-release, the Eternal record re-release. I meant to mention that. I even have a note that says this isn't a question, but bitch. You guys gotta understand, when I'm doing these interviews, not only am I asking the questions, I'm operating the whole everything that you see in front of you. I'm fucking reading the questions. It's a lot.
Yeah. It's man, I'm just amazed by it. Like, I would love to see that. If there's somebody on YouTube, it's a YouTube channel. I think it's called Uprocks or something. But there's this girl, and I'm pretty sure y'all have probably seen it. And she does like gym shoes where she paid homage to artists, and she did a gym shoe design for Ice Cube, T.I., Styles P. Have you guys seen that before?
Mm-mm.
You gotta watch it. It's like, just put in Styles P gym shoe or Ice Cube gym shoe, and it's like she took moments of their career and she put it all into a gym shoe, just paying homage with this gym shoe. And when they look at it, they like, how do you expect for me to wear this? I cannot wear this gym shoe. It's too dope to wear it. So, man, I would love to see something like that for like a bone shoe like that with all of they like, album arts and moments in their career. Like, that would be dope. And they would be the perfect people to like be a part of that.
Who better than him, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna send it to John so he can, check it out. And also, what did I say? Oh, I wanted to touch on the Thin C interview. That was pretty dope to know how long he been apart, because to me, I didn't find out about him. I found out about him and HC Chemist around the same time, and that was around Unified era. That's when I thought that they, became a part of the, the Bone family and things like that. So to hear how far back he been apart, it's like, oh wow, that's crazy. And that's definitely that's amazing. And It's like, wow, he just had his own thing going to where it was like it, because I got when I was watching the interview, it was like, well, why wasn't he, part of the Motha? So it was like, oh, because he was too busy getting booked by other acts, and he was just I ain't gonna say just as big as far as recognized, but he was doing some big things too. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the show unique, right? Is that we find out things that the average interview wouldn't. We ask certain questions that it's like, as an interviewer, I think we're a little unorthodox. We ask good interview questions, but then we kind of ask some nerd questions, right? That it's like your average interviewer may not ask. And that's what leads us to find out things like, oh shit, he was on the Flesh and Bone THUGS tour. Like that's crazy when you look at the timeline of, he didn't start really doing production until Mo Thugs 3, but he was all the way around even for like the Art of War tour. It's like, and I remember asking him like, hey, you didn't start producing until then, but you're on the Art of War tour. Like, what the fuck were you doing between then and then? And he's like, man, I was making sure the sound was right for my guys. He grew up around live shows. So I think that's what makes it unique. And I think that's why I can, speaking for myself, but I think it's the same thing for, John and Matt. I think that as many times as it's been like, this may be the last season, this may be the last episode, da 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 da. I think the thing that keeps bringing us back is, you think you got everybody, but there's always a thin C there that's got like an oh shit, you know, like I don't want to devalue anybody else's story, but you know, in my mind, there's guys that I'm like, I could take or leave talking to this person. Like it doesn't really matter if I do, but then it's like you get the opportunity and you talk to certain people and you're like, fuck, I'm glad I talked to him. Like I thought I knew, I didn't know shit. And I knew there was a lot to like Thin C. But I didn't know it was this much, you know, when we got the interview. Even Tyrie, it's like I knew what we were getting into with this interview, but like he still had some gems from that time frame and things that we didn't get from the Julio. So we've interviewed Julio, we've interviewed Tyrie. I did a little text interview with Quentin Frost because Quentin's like, look, man, you don't want me on there for an interview. I got nothing to fucking, what do you want to hear about? That I rendered a thing? He's like, you know, ask me some questions. So we kind of interviewed Quentin. Donald Cunningham, he's the only one left. If you're listening, Donald, you know what's coming next, buddy. You know it. We're closer than ever with him, though. He finally said, hey, give me the questions, and if I got answers, I'll come on. You know you got answers.
Yeah, I'm concerned that like we're gonna feel completed after getting Donald. Like Donald is almost the you know, it's like Kermit or Donald, which is the key piece there, or Tamika. And it's, for me, I think at this stage that Donald is probably like the ultimate prize. I don't want to like jinx anything, but if it ever happens, you know, I hope we still got that fire, you know. Because like what is there after Donald? That's like it's the crown jewel right there, to get the final answers for Eternal in the Eternal season, which I don't think it'll happen this season, but someday we're gonna get that final answer.
I don't think it'll happen this season, but if he messaged me right now and said, okay, I'll do your interview, I'll do it tomorrow, 10 o'clock. I don't give a fuck if Matt and John couldn't show up. I don't care that I don't got a question written. This motherfucker will be live at 10 o'clock tomorrow. I'd call out of work, whatever I had to, and I would freestyle. So whenever Donald's ready, we'll do it. But yeah, man, he's on my top 5, you know, and he's on my top 5 for a reason. It's you heard Tyrie say, hey, like, he was kind of the messenger, it almost sounded like, between like Easy and you heard him say like Easy was, you know, sick, and so it's like he had his hands kind of in there because Tamika was taking over, and people don't know, but Tamika, Donald, Julio, they all came over from Motown together. And I don't know how many people know that, but they came together, all of them. Tamika's not some fucking idiot that just fucked, you know, Eazy-E and inherited a record label and didn't know shit. Like, I think that's what people think, and they're wrong. She came over from Motown. She had a background in this. And that's how Donald and Julio ended up coming over, is she had a working relationship with them from Motown. And so, you know, Donald was kind of put in a position that he was almost, I'm not going to say helping her run the place, but you can see that his hands were in a lot of stuff besides just the artwork. Like, he helped with the E.1999 video. He helped with the If I Could Teach the World video. So he was instrumental in other things that we don't even realize, because now with this show, we just associate him with just the artwork, that it's like, it's going under the radar, the other shit that he did. And that's why he's on the top 5, and out of everybody on the top 5, he's probably the most likely. Him or Gary are the most likely. My other 3 are tough. Tamika, Kermit, those ones are tough. DJ Unique, I don't know if he'll do it either. Those 3 seem fucking pretty tough, but Gary seems tough. Donald, I think we're getting.
Is there a part of you that wanted to just talk nostalgia 90s hip hop with Tyrie when it was going on? When he mentioned Ninth Wonder, it made me think about the Diggable Planets and I was like, man, this would be like the perfect time for the Diggable Planets to make a comeback. I feel like the time is perfect if they came out with like a full band. And it was that before your time? You guys, do all of you guys on the panel here, do you guys remember Diggable Planets? They're known for cool like that, but I always like their second single, Ninth Wonder, from their second album, a lot better. I'm slicker this year. Do you remember that track?
Yeah.
That was
I
the
don't
jam,
know
man.
who like that song.
Yeah. Yeah, they had
that,
like some jazz going on. It was cool.
that came from like video game. It's a lot of video games. It's a lot of songs I got put on through video games. Like that sounded like that for some like around the 2000s. So that's how I know about them and that song. That's the only song that I know from them.
So Therese, what kind of new Bone stuff you checking out? Did you check the Lazy album, the Busy album? Like what's floating?
Just real quick before we get into that, I want to shout out Roy. I see Roy in here. Roy helped me out earlier today with some art needs that I had. Shout out to Roy. I see Mark Scott in here, our newest Skull and Crossroads Society member. I see Justin Mayo just got in here saying he's late to the party. You missed a hell of an interview, Justin. You're going to have to bring this motherfucker back. Shout out to anybody that during the chat did a like or a share. If you guys haven't liked the video yet, I say it all the time. It's absolutely free to like this. Make sure you like it. Once the video's over, even though you've been in the live chat, make sure you leave an actual comment on the video. The likes, the comments, the shares. All these things help. Therese, what are you checking out in Bone, bro?
Before I get to that, you had mentioned something about how Donald helped with the videos for Eternal and If I Could Teach the World, or was that Look Into My Eyes, as you said? I think it was
I know he did If I Could Teach the World. I mean, he may have helped with the other ones too, same time period. So, I think somebody just even mentioned that he was, there during the Crossroads. So, but I know for sure E.1999, and I know for sure If I Could Teach the World. With that being said, I feel like he was probably hands in all these things in some way.
Okay. Yeah, when you had mentioned it, I'm like, that makes sense because those videos have similarities. It's like they represent those albums in the art. Like they similar to the art and also just the sound. It was like we got the video have to be similar to how the song sound and how the album art is. So those two videos in particular. So that I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if anybody eat that.
No, I totally agree. I think that if you were to take any of the videos from Eternal, it's like the East 1999 video specifically feels like the artwork alive. And If I Could Teach the World, same situation. That video, even though it's got a certain like cheesiness to it, that video really feels like the Art of War artwork come to life. So yeah, I mean, I definitely dig what you're saying. Shout out to Andy in here. Shout out to RC Thugsta.
Yeah, and so as far as what I'm checking out, as of new, I did go back and because I caught the tail end of the live that you guys did for the Lazy album. I checked that out. I didn't know that girl could rap like that. I was like, oh, she can actually spit. She's just not no Lazy Bones girlfriend. She can spit. I'm like, so I guess at one point that's what she did. Back in the day, she was a rapper. That kind of just brought another thought into my head, a reminder that I was gonna speak on with Easy and Tamika. Maybe of what we thought of. I don't say the perception of her like being his girlfriend, his wife, or whatever, and she just took over. Like maybe that was what they relationship. Maybe that's how they met. He probably met her through the business point of her being in Motown and wanted her to help him out with Ruthless or something, and a relationship came out of that. Maybe that's what happened with Tamika and Easy.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I'm sure there's something to that. You know what I mean? I'm sure they probably met in that way somehow. And I like to point those things out because I know it's a very anti-Bone type of thing, the way I defend Tamika Wright the way I do, but I just think that over time we as fans have kind of built this story in our minds, right? So it's like the story in our minds about Tamika, about the Ruthless takeover, shit like that is based partly on fact and partly just on this like thing that we've created in our heads and passed around. And it's like you don't hear about, oh, she's not just some woman that just took over this label and didn't know shit. Like, she's a very intelligent woman that came from a very, very large functioning record label and brought over important people from that record label to his record label that literally created the fucking artwork that is probably why so many of us got so deep into Bone. Like, yeah, we love the music and shit, but think of how often people talk about this E1999 Eternal artwork, and she brought the fucking guys over that did that. Like, if there wasn't a Tamika, think about this, y'all. If there wasn't a Tamika in charge of Ruthless, fuck the thing I always bring up about if Eazy-E never died, we never got the CROSSROADS remix, blah, 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 blah. If Tamika never takes over, you never get the E1999 Eternal artwork in the way that you know it, because she was responsible for bringing over the fucking guys that did it. It was a totally different art team around Ruthless at the time that Eazy was there. Totally different. She is directly responsible for it. Directly.
Yeah.
She is like my, I don't know what to call it, like phantom, you know, like if we ever, the one person I say I want more, I know I've told you guys this multiple times, that's the person I would like to interview more than anybody by far, but also don't meet your heroes. Not that she's necessarily my hero, but she's obviously like, you know, absolute mega business person. She knew exactly what she was doing the whole time. Yeah, like you guys said, but the amount of questions she would hang up on us, like the the amount of stuff that we would have, like, no 45 minutes, you're cool. And she was like,
oh my
okay.
God, could you imagine her telling us, you got 30 minutes, guys?
Oh man, we would. See, my brain is frying. Like, I don't want to think about it on what I would have to. So no, there's so much there to unpack, and you know, it's one of my favorite things about Beyond the Harmonies that we'll have the discussion about the CROSSROADS remix is because we lost Eazy-E, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who Therese is who, you know, who would be your number one if you could pick any one person that we could interview, right? Tony C. What is it about Tony C that makes you want to hear an interview from him versus anybody else?
Man, because like I said, well, I don't think I ever told that, but like I'm always an aspiring music producer. Like, I've always wanted to be in music production. Around from it, as far as, you know, family that's in music. My uncle, he was in a band, and they were supposed to get signed by the same person that ended up the Zap band, not the Zap band. I'm sorry, Cameo. And so, but he never stopped doing music. He was, you know, he became a music teacher, and it's just always been around. And so, I've had points in my life where I didn't know what in music I wanted to do. At first, I thought I wanted to be a singer after I seen the Temptations movie and the Jackson 5 movie. Then I thought I wanted to be a rapper. But then once I seen my cousin, when I went over to my auntie house with my uncle that's in music, I seen him doing beats. And I fell in love with that. And I was like, just seeing somebody make it, I was like, oh, that seemed pretty cool, and he let me try it, and I just fell in love with it. And so like once I got into like getting albums, I would look at the production credits and stuff like that, and I would see DJ Unique and Tony C, DJ Unique and Tony C. And it's like, okay, we know DJ Unique's story, but we don't know Tony C's story. And like, one thing I want to see happen is like, we know how the songs came about, but we don't. I want to see them go track by track, either DJ Unique or Tony C, talk about like how did they come up with the beat, like go really in depth with it, like something that I don't think nobody has ever done before. Like, what equipment did you use? What keyboard and what drums? Why did you pick those drums? And why did you pick this keyboard at that time? So like, I really want to see something like that.
Man, that's some real beyond the harmony-esque shit you're asking for right there. Like, this is the only place some nerd shit like that could ever even possibly happen. So I hope we get a chance. You know, I haven't got many leads on Tony. But you know, people have asked for Tony, they've asked for Eric Norquist before. So there's a couple of guys out there like that people ask for, that I'm like, hey, I'm more than happy to do it. All we got to do is if somebody finds a way for me to contact them, listen, I'll fucking, you know, I'll hit up whoever, baby. Somebody get me his contact, I'll hit him up.
I was real close. I was like, I guess I didn't want to nag somebody, but it was like, man, I wish I would have stayed and actually got his phone number and like talked to him. But I was also waiting till I got my equipment and everything. And by the time I got my equipment and was like ready to like really dive into learning music production and things like that, because I always had life curveballs. Like, I would be straight, not have to worry about money and income and things like that. And then I go back to my hobby of learning music. And at this point, when I got in contact with him and he told me like, yeah, if you need anything, just reach out to me. I didn't have the equipment and everything. And by the time I got it, he was off Facebook, and I couldn't find him no more. So
He just reminded me of Thin C saying, when life starts lifing.
Yeah,
you know?
life.
Yeah, Andy says, bring Tamika on so we can jam her up for that unreleased Bone music. Yeah, I think that's exactly why she wouldn't fucking come on. She'd just be like, I'm not getting harassed for an hour about fucking Bone shit. Let's see, who else is in here? Jordan Corey, I see Jordan in here showing love always. Shout out to Jordan Corey. Joseph Tech 99th degree Skull and Crossroads member says, we need to know who has the old DAT tapes from the 90s. Yeah, I think that's a combination of people, and I think that depending on oh look, Blaze just shared the Facebook stream. I bet he shared it to the Bone Cult. Shout out to Blaze. I bet depending on who would depend on what version of what, you know, DAT tape you get. And it's interesting because if you talk to a guy like Bobby Jones, he's like, look, a lot of this shit isn't digital. And this is the problem, is that you guys want things that are fucking sitting on reel to reel. And his reel to reel tapes, he's like, look, mine are sitting in special bags that are sealed, that are in like a cool place, that I couldn't, that are so old that if you were to open them and try to use them, you would damage them and they would be gone. You need a specialist that knows how to work with this. And it's very expensive. And so I think, guys, and by me talking to Bobby and learning that, it brought a lot of, it kicked a lot of knowledge my way. Like when we're like, yo, why the fuck don't they just put this shit out? Or why don't they just, it's because it's not sitting in a digital form where they can just pull it off their computer and do it. A lot of it's sitting in these reel-to-reel tapes, and it's an expensive process. And so the reason why they're like, it's going to cost X amount of dollars, and we think it's a ridiculous price, is because not only do they want the money for the product, but there's a certain amount of money that'll go behind them just being able to possibly recover said product from some of these tapes. So it's real interesting when you think of recordings from the 90s versus the way that we record material now. Now when they go into a studio and record, and there's 100 different versions, right? They're all just saved as different Pro Tools sessions, no problem. You know, you open up a folder, Notorious Thugs, there's sessions 1 through fucking 40, each one of them's different. You just double click and there's your different one. These guys have cases and crates and boxes full of different tapes. And, you know, I remember going to college to learn, and this will kind of date me a little bit, but to learn audio engineering. And it was like, it blew my fucking mind when my professor was like, okay, now you cut the tape right here. Excuse me? Yeah, you cut it. You physically cut this fucking tape right here, boom, and then we're going to attach it to this tape over here, and that's how you're going to do that. And even at the time, I was like, are you fucking psychotic? We're going to physically... What happens if I cut in the wrong... You fuck it up, is the answer. You fuck it up, and then we got to try to fix your fuck up. So don't cut it incorrectly. And I think that's a lot of why we're not getting a lot of this shit that we want, is because it just wasn't saved in a format that makes it so shareable.
Yeah, additionally to that, just thinking of, sorry, Matt, what Julio had, he's got them on these old formats.
Right.
That
yeah.
We don't even have the software companies are out of business, and there's no like viewer converter.
Right.
That can, allow you to view it. Some of these older styles.
Yeah, I'd be bugging Julie over shit, and he's like, "Look, man, it's not that I wouldn't give you this thing that you want. It's that you couldn't open it, and you would have to buy this software that's very expensive." He's like, "I could open it in a pinch, but you can't really." So it's just like things changed from the time that these songs were made, this artwork was made, shit like that. It's pretty incredible. And if you think about it from that perspective, and that's why people are always just like, yo, why do these Art of War pre-releases sound like shit? Well, it's because it was some psychopath like me that got trusted to go into a studio and be there and recorded it illegally and smuggled it the fuck out on a tape recorder. And, and that's how you got your Art of War pre-releases. I don't know if that's really it. I know there's a bunch of stories about how those came about, but, it's just something like that is how and why those things exist.
Think about this, okay? Creeping on a Come Up came out in 1994. This just crossed my mind. The first operating system that most of us used on a PC was Windows 95. Yes, Windows 3.1 existed. I used it, but Windows 95 is what brought like the World Wide Web in the year 1995. So if Creeping on a Come Up came out in June 1994, that means the artwork had to have been created on Windows 3.11, utilizing software that ran on 3.11, not even Windows 95. And I had a lot of applications that once Windows XP came out, the Windows 95 software didn't work on XP because the architecture of the operating system is completely different on how it even launches. I think the language and all that. And so we're talking 94, pre-Windows 95 era software. Man, that didn't even occur to me, because when I think of Creeping on a Come Up, I thought, thinking about listening to it when it came out, I thought I was like, all right, I'm kind of in the future. I was playing Super Nintendo at the time, and it must have, who knew Windows 95 didn't come out yet? That is bananas if you think about it. Windows 95 is newer than Creeping on a Come Up.
To answer Joseph's question, could we clean up the Art of War pre-releases? Yeah, to a point, to a point, some of that could be cleaned up. I actually have some remasters already, and I'm sure with AI we could clean them up more. But you're not going to take something that was third party recorded with like a tape recorder or whatever and make it sound like it would on a CD. But there's a point that they could be cleaned up, sure.
I think if we just give it enough time, the AI, probably maybe by next year we could do it. I'm not kidding. This stuff is moving pretty fast.
Crazy.
The way I would think you would do it would be, obviously you do the split stems, and then you would take the like the vocals, and then find like a cover, like they call it not a maintenance file, a source file, and say like, this is what I want it to sound like. Fill in the blanks where it sounds like crap. And not only that, that studio program we have, sometimes it does good with bad sounding audio and it makes it sound pretty good. But what you wind up getting is like this weird lisp on the vocals. But sometimes you don't. So I think in due time, so everybody that's holding on to poor quality things like the Eazy-E Mr. Bill Collector or the Art of War pre-releases, or Busy Bone Murder Me, all these songs that are in bad quality, hold on to them, because there's a chance that in the near future, not too distant, if they allow us to have it, you might be able, or maybe even we might be able to clean that stuff up with a single click of a button. Or you guys have seen Blaze. He's doing all kinds of stuff with the AI image generators. Cecil West is doing it too. But Blaze also has significant, production
Blaze's
skills.
shit is so fire.
Yeah, so imagine when Blaze starts messing with AI.
Blaze like inspires my little fucking bone AI shit is all inspired by Blaze's shit. His shit is nice. And yeah, when he starts fucking with the audio AI shit, man, that guy's gonna be.
Yeah, he's the guy you guys want to reach out to on that, like to clean up Art of War. Send Blaze the files. Send him the idea of like, hey, maybe you could use some AI to clean this stuff up and make it sound good. And I mean, hey Blaze, if you're listening, here, that's an idea for you. And man, Blaze, those I don't know if all you guys seen those the image generators that he did for the video game for Boys in the Hood, the video game for Bone Thugs and Harmony. Was it a specific game that he made it for? Those Nintendo cartridges he made? And it was like I think those scenes were for Boys in the Hood, or did he do one for Bone?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. If you guys haven't seen those pictures, they're great. If you haven't seen Cecil's pictures, those are great too. Between the two of them, the AI artwork, we're going to have to find a way to, we were talking about earlier, getting all those newspapers put together. But at some point, we got to put all this AI imagery that has come from Cecil West, Blaze, and Cold Blooded, I think, was making some pretty cool looking ones too. Like that Art of War cover he made was
he remade a bunch of the covers, man. He remade Resurrection, all kinds. I just want to say, and I'm going to say it openly so people kind of get the hint, but I see Joseph Tech, who's our only 99th degree Skull and Crossroads member right now, said that he would pay money for those Art of War pre-releases. And while I will not share what I have publicly, I do have a couple very nice pre-releases that Joseph actually gets media sharing with Cecil West, and we're going to have a private media sharing Zoom here soon, Joseph, and I shall bless you, sir, with multiple files that few have and many would kill for. So
it's the fringe benefits of the Skull and Crossroads Society.
It is.
The bone cold that always needed to happen. And now we're creating it finally. And by the way, just so you guys know, a little history on the Skull and Crossroads Society. This was an idea Cecil and I have been putting together since before Beyond the Harmony, I think, existed. I succinctly remember being in a hotel room somewhere in South Carolina at some real bizarre conference, talking to you, pacing the hotel room floor, mapping out the ideas, and you were generating all the artwork for it. And I was just thinking, man, if we ever get this thing off the ground, this will be something that should have always existed for Bone members, Bone fans. And I almost wonder if it does exist in like an unspoken way. It's kind of always existed. And I think that's what's kept the Bone cult culture going for 30 years is the passing on of the secret hidden files, the unreleased files amongst those that have proven themselves worthy to possess such items. And we've also been blessed by others of the Skull and Crossroads Society before it was the Skull and Crossroads Society officially, that have passed on stuff to Cecil, who then passed them on to me and Matt. So we're going to keep that tradition going, but make it official with dues members to do it up the right way. So if you guys ever join it, you'll be on with Cecil, and he's gonna let you in on the crypt.
Yeah, I can't, there's certain things that I just can't let anybody have. But the things that I can, that I just don't usually, I will, to the ones that I should, if you smell what I'm cooking. Shout out to Greg Sinclair. I see him on Facebook sharing the stream. Our homie Blaze sharing the stream. Brock Damien sharing the stream. Shout out to everybody that did that. We're everywhere now, guys. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook. We're primarily on YouTube, but we're everywhere. So if you're over on Facebook, make sure you share the stream. Every share on every platform helps. The likes, anything like that. Therese, is there anything else you want to talk about before we let you go, bro?
Yeah, I didn't want to answer the question about that John brought up, as far as what I'm listening to, and also my thoughts on the bone question of the week.
Yeah.
So my opinion was the same as yours. As far as getting the unreleased, either Bone, either East 1999, Art of War, or Creeping on a Come Up song. And I had said that because Crazy has always talked about how with certain verses that he would spit in a song, how a lot of their stuff they had already had ready from when they was on the block already, So that's the reason why they was able to get East 1999, Eternal, and Creeping on the Come Up out so fast, like after each other. So, because from my recollection, it seemed like had they had more time, if Easy gave them more time and wasn't trying to get them out, the stuff that we heard on Creeping on the Come Up would have been on Eternal. So them two, they went in the same to me a little bit. They just got different production. So with that being said, with him saying like this stuff was already made, and the Sons of Assassin, that pretty much would have been Creeping on the Come Up without the beats. So that's why I didn't really want that. It would have just been the same production that we got from Faces of Death. I was never interested in the Bass and Trouble. And then the OGC, that's something that I'd never heard of until the Bone question of the week. But that's also sounded like some I don't want to hear Crazy with some other guys that's not.
You don't want to hear Faces of Death level, but with not even Bone people? That doesn't interest you, to just hear like Faces of Death level bullshit and it's not even Bone?
No, I don't want that. I won't.
Yeah, me either, bro. Don't worry.
Hey, but what if one of those members, real quick, what if one of the members of OGC was Wally?
Ooh, or like Tombstone, or imagine if OGC was like all these other motherfuckers that we like and we didn't know it. Ooh. Why didn't you bring this up during the actual question of the day, John?
Just thought of it right now.
I
saw Crazy talking about Wally in some interview, and I was like, man, I wonder if he was in OGC, because he kept saying that Wally was the sixth member. So
could have sold me. Might have been able to sell me.
Here's the thing, Therese, just before you finish your thought, have you heard that I forgot the guy's name that remade the Faces of Death album with DJ Unique beats?
Lucky Lou.
Lucky Lou. Yeah, Therese, have you heard the Lucky Lou version of Faces of Death?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
do you know what we're talking about? Have you heard of it? Like,
no, I haven't.
So this guy Lucky Lou, he took Faces of Death and got the acapellas out of it, and then put like famous DJ Unique Bone Thugs and Harmony songs, the beats. Like he matched up what beat that Unique made with. And maybe it was the other guys too. Maybe it was Tony C and all these other guys. But basically, he took like Bone Thugs and Harmony, Ruthless Records releases that everybody knows, took those instrumentals, and then took the Bone Enterprise Faces of Death acapellas and mashed them together. And like they're on beat and they're perfectly sounding. And it's incredible. Like it makes Faces of Death sound kind of like you were saying, creeping on a come up with bad beats. But now you're getting Faces of Death with actually good beats, and it changes the whole feel of the whole Faces. Like Faces of Death sounds like a dope album now.
Now,
Yeah.
it does what the Lucky Lou thing does, and I just pasted it, John and Matt, in our private chat. So if somebody wants to post it in the actual live chat, the Lucky Lou link. But what it does do is it makes you appreciate that it was a production thing. Because when you hear these Faces of Death songs over Eternal and Art of War beats, you're like, oh shit, like Faces of Death really is like the Bone sound. We just don't lump it in there like that because the Eternal production is so non-Bone. But once you hear it over beats that we consider Bone beats, you're like, holy fuck. The Lucky Lou thing like really made me look at Faces of Death so crazy. Something else made me look at Faces of Death differently, but the Lucky Lou mixes really made me look at Faces of Death differently. And that time gap that we talk about, the difference between the time between Faces of Death and Creeping on a Come Up, we're like, well, what the fuck changed so much because it's such a drastic change? It's not. It was a drastic production change. And if during Faces of Death they would have had DJ Unique, Faces of Death was probably a fucking banger.
Yeah, and I even mentioned that in the memos that I sent to John. It was like Crazy said, and I believe Lazy said it too. Like Easy was taking them to different producers before they got but when they landed on DJ Unique, that's when they knew like, okay, they're gonna stick to him, and that's the reason why we got Down for My Thing. And it makes me wonder, what if they would have got to DJ Unique first? How would Down for My Thing sound? Like the production on that. So
Yeah, when you brought that up, that reminded me of that. Did that come to you from that Crazy Bone interview? I think it was with Court Dog, where I think it was the Court Dog Holding Court interview. But Crazy was explaining how like Easy was bringing him to producers like all over the place. And, they had heard a few, but then when they finally sat down with Unique, they were like, oh yeah, this is the sound right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. And great point.
That's an extremely beyond the harmony point of view. Like, once you said it out loud, I was like, yeah, why haven't we talked about that yet? But yeah.
And Matt, I had cut you off earlier by accident. Do you remember what your train of thought was on that? Because it was like between Therese talking and then something came to me and you had something.
I was probably making fun of you for OGC again or whatever. I don't remember now. I went in pretty hard on you on that video. My bad.
No. I love when you guys bring it. That brings the comedy. But did I just sweeten the deal though? Like if Wally and perhaps Boo were other members of OGC, does that change?
Absolutely not. But I love to see where your mind goes. Like your mind goes to places that if a gun was to my head, I couldn't fabricate. And you just do it with zero prodding whatsoever, and I'm just here for it.
It interests me a little bit more than I was. Like when you were talking OGC in the question of the day, I was like, who gives a fuck about that even a little bit? But to think that maybe it's like, Wally and maybe T-Rock and, who knows, Tony Tone or something. I at least want to, I'm not going to trade a fucking Art of War song for that shit. Yeah,
you know what but like unreleased Art of War or Creeping on the Come Up or Eternal song, it would be Faces of Death with Flesh on it at that time.
Yeah, what did NC say? Did he say that Flesh was just doing basketball at the time, or was he actually?
I said he was focused on basketball. He said that he was in music as well, but he was doing more like he was putting on aftermath and shit like that. So it almost sounds like he was. And if you remember, they say like Flesh helped rally up the money and shit. So I almost wonder if Flesh was almost in a. I'm not gonna say manager role per se, but if he was more of like the you know, the backbone, the behind the whole thing, and making shit happen, and you know, he was putting artists
he
on.
was busy working. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he was making money.
Yeah, but remember, Lazy Bone shouts out the bigger brother Stan House on, I think it's Full Motion.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Is it that? So it's, you know, Stan House is there.
Not Flesh and Bone though. That's a good.
Good
Hey,
point.
listen. That's a good
point.
question too. Is to find out. We know they were all Crazy, Lazy, Busy, Wish on Faces of Death that came out in '93. So by '92. They were those names. It would be interesting to find out when Flesh and Bone became Flesh and Bone.
Right.
That's a good question, John. Don't forget to write that down somewhere. We need to find out when the fuck Flesh and Bone became Flesh and Bone.
Because they always say stack. My bad, Therese. Go ahead.
I thought that because I always thought he was like already a part of the group because of the Band-Aid Boy thing, like him and Crazy, you know, being in class and him Crazy. I thought it started off with Crazy, Lazy, and Flesh, and that's the story that they already sell. And yeah, I just thought that, yeah, with him being the oldest, he just graduated high school and wasn't around to do the recordings and put down his verses. So in my mind, he was part of the group and rapping. We just didn't hear him on the record for some reason. So
well, was he though? Because they called him Stanhouse, right? They didn't shout out my brother Flesh and Bone or anything.
right.
And K Chill was in the Band-Aid Boys too, which depending on who and when the story is told, sometimes they mention him, sometimes his name is omitted from history. By the way, K Chill's back in the studio. If anybody didn't see it, it was very interesting to see K Chill back in the studio. Shout out to Beyond the Harmony alumni K Chill.
I'll do it. As soon as that pre-release drops, I'm going to be the first one to sign up for that K Chill album. I don't care what's on it. It sounded cool, like those Spanish guitars that were on it. That sounded pretty awesome. I wanted to get clarification from Therese real quick. So you're saying, like, what would Down For My Thing sound like if DJ Unique had produced it?
Yeah, DJ, all the songs that. So I believe the only 2 songs on Creeping On the Come Up that's not produced by DJ Unique is For the Love of Money and Down For My Thing. So I would like to know what would Down For My Thing would have sounded like if DJ Unique produced it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Is it ever interesting to you or anybody else that For the Love of Money isn't even Bone's song and it's another Ruthless Records artist song, and Eazy-E just was like, fuck it, let's retake this.
I was so shocked the first time I heard that. I'm like, what do you mean it's not that they didn't come up with that song? Like, what? And DJ Unique didn't produce that? And wait a minute, the girl that's singing Thuggish Ruggish Wrong is not the one that's also singing on For the Love of Money? I was like, what world is this?
Yeah, and the girl singing it, is she from Death Row Record? Like, did she wind up on like some Death Row album? Or singing some hooks for Tupac? Or
I don't know, but I know that it blew my mind the same way when I found out that wasn't even a Bone song. And I'm like, I wonder whose decision. I mean, obviously Eazy's decision, right? Was like, but like out of the giant Ruthless Records catalog, what was it about that song that he was like, let's let Bone have that? I mean, Ruthless Records had such an extensive catalog at that time. What was it about that one that he was like, oh, we're gonna fucking re-image this as a Bone Thug song with all the shit that he could have picked?
Crazy actually answers that. I don't remember what his answer was, but I did hear it in one of the interviews that he did last year, where I forgot the reason why. In fact, actually, Therese, you might remember it because it was in that same interview.
Yeah, I believe you just said like that's a song that Eazy had wanted to do, and they just went in there, and just like how I don't know who had said it before, but like just like how Notorious Thugs is Bone featuring Biggie, like they made that they song. The same thing with For the Love. They made that they song with adding the gotta make that money, man. Like, of course, the For the Love of Money was already there, but like they made that they song with the gotta make that money by adding that on there and doing and putting they verses on it. So
Easy probably loved that song. I bet when I can't remember who originally did it, but I bet when it originally happened, he had bigger aspirations for that song, and it didn't come to light, and I bet he just wasn't willing to let it go. He's like, fuck no, this song is meant to be bigger than it is.
That's my guess.
RC Thugsta just for the first time in fucking 20 plus years of being a Bone fan, just realized there's two different versions of that music video, and it fucking blew his mind.
I think there's actually 3 versions, because the one that he sent us, I had seen yet a different version. Like I saw, there's the one that everybody knows, but then I saw this alternate version, and then the one RC sent. I was like, I haven't seen this version. And then I think he was pointing out that maybe some of the Graveyard Shift guys were in the background. And
he thought maybe Boo was. I asked Sin, and he said that he, meaning Sin, wasn't in it, and he's like, I'm not sure if that's Boo or not. So no real answer.
And who was the guy that Wishbone pushed or shoved or got shoved by? I can't. Either Wish got like near the end of the video, Wish either shoved somebody or gets shoved by somebody, and I just wondered, like, I never even wondered at the time, but watching the RC version, I was like, who's the guy shoving Wish? Like, who would think you could shove Wishbone? Or maybe Wish was shoving him. It was one of the two, but who is that guy? And along the lines, Therese, I know you kind of came into Bone a little bit later, so Eternal's not your amazing thing. You're not one of these, like, let's go back to the E.1999 style, but Mr. Bill Collector, was that a favorite of yours, or is just because it's from the previous era, it's just another song to you?
No, it's definitely not just out of another song. Like, I know that I didn't start off with that with E.1999, but I definitely don't deny it's classic. It's the what it is. Like, it's definitely top tier. So yeah, every song on that is just, if I hear it somewhere, I gotta stop immediately what I'm doing. Even like it'll be somebody like blocks away, and I can just hear like a rhythm of an Eternal song and be like, where is that from? Who is that playing my music? Like, I'm like, who is that? Where is it coming from? So like, yeah, it's like the whole album for me is top tier. So Mr. Bill Collector definitely.
So
I remember the first time I heard the Yo Rinse Do Motherfucker and Coming to America. I was like, they got that from Bone.
Other way around.
Nice.
That's funny. Well, somebody this week ruined Santa Claus for me on Mr. Bill Collector. Somebody in the comments on one of the videos, I think it was I had done a Bone video about like the song origins of some of the songs, and because it hadn't been done yet, I didn't think. Anyway, little did I know that Mr. Bill Collector was inspired by The Police. That's the group with Sting, and the name of the song is Wrapped Around Your Finger. And when you see this video, it's like, man, this has got to be on some occult Eternal. Like, it looks like a Bone video, and but the sound of it is the tune of Mr. Bill Collector. So if you guys haven't seen The Police Wrapped Around Your Finger music video, not only does it sound like Mr. Bill Collector, it looks like E.1999 Eternal music video. Like, it looks like Sting is hanging around in a video that should have been shot for a song on E.1999 Eternal. So check that thing out if you haven't seen it yet.
So Mr. Bill Collector is like a remake of that song, almost like the same song.
The tune of it, like Sting isn't walking around saying Mr. Bill Collector, got to make that money. He's not. It's a whole different song, but the sound of it, like the way they call me Mr. Bill Collector, need me money, don't ease up 10. Like the way that sounds is the way the Police song sounds.
I would say seeing the imagery from the video may have been what sparked them taking it, for sure.
Agreed. Oh, Speaking of things that I found this week, I found The Life Entertainment artist that is worth checking out. And it's from a couple years ago. They have not just one good song, they have a bunch of good songs, the group, and I never heard of them. The group is called Habit and First Lady Frankie. It looks like they were active 2 to 5 years ago with Crazy Bone with The Life. They got a bunch of good songs on their channel, like high quality. And the girl that sings in it, she sings in the E.1999 style, right? So if you're an E.1999 fanatic, she did this one track with Crazy Bone, and the way her verse starts is in the singing style of the E.1999 style, and then she busts off into a verse. Her verse is dope too, but they understand the Bone sound. So Frankie, what's the name? Frankie, Lady Habit and First Lady Frankie. Frankie spelled Frankii. Anybody in the chat there? Are you guys familiar with this group? Probably their biggest thing they made is let's see here. It's Crazy Addicted. So 2 years ago they made a track with Crazy Bone, and then 5 years ago they made a track called Good Vibes with Crazy. And man, when you see this video, this is like Crazy Bone probably at his healthiest and his happiest. I love the video, and Crazy looks great in the video, and everybody else in the video looks great too. So it's a great video. Good vibes with Crazy Bone, and then Crazy Addicted is the one I was telling you about, where her flow is East 99 era level stuff. So
I see Andy asking about the fucking clean version. The reason why I didn't ask that question is because I know that it wasn't Tyrie. I know that was a Donald and Julio creation, and I actually believe that Donald is who did that artwork. So I saw you ask it. The reason why I didn't ask it is because I semi knew your answer, and I knew that Tyrie did not have that answer. So yeah, that is, I believe, a Donald Cunningham thing, and the skull that's on the cover of the fucking clean version is the same skull that you see on the back with the track list, and the skull on the fucking clean version is the same skull that you see that they, on the inside where it's their faces, and there's also like skulls. They used one of those skulls for that as well. So there's that.
What do you guys think Eazy-E's input was on East 1999 Eternal album cover?
Nothing.
He appears in the window, but I don't think he had input on it. I think he had a hand in it.
Nah.
He mentioned it.
There's this fucking romanticized idea that Eazy-E gave all these fucks about the Eternal album, okay? And there's an interview where Crazy says he got to hear a little bit of it, but remember, and I think you said this, Terez, that a lot of this music was done around the same time. Eazy-E was in the fucking hospital dying. Yeah, but that's the early shit. Like, by the time we got to artwork and stuff, Eazy-E is dying in a hospital and could not give a single flying fuck about this album. I promise you, if any of you are ever dying in a hospital and they're like, what do you think about this album? You're going to be like, I don't give a fuck, man. I got kids, bitch. What do you mean? What do I care? So, like, I just don't think by the time it came to the artwork piece that Eazy-E was in it at all. I think that's hardcore. I think that my guess would be this. Tamika probably put Donald in some sort of charge. Donald probably picked DJ Unique's brain about Eazy-E. And so there's probably some influence there. Quentin said that when he did the cover art that he didn't remember who, but somebody said to put Eazy-E in the window. So, but I don't think he had anything to do with the artwork by then. I really don't. I think that Eazy-E's input was minimal. Even on the songs, I think it's the early shit. But not, not that stuff. I can't remember the interview. I'll have to try to find it, but it's like they talk about the reason why he got removed was because they hadn't heard from him. And so they just deleted his fucking shit. Well, you know, he's dying. They didn't know it. They didn't know any of these things. So that's got to be very early on, the earlier recordings, the stuff that was recorded closer to the creeping on the come up shit.
RC Thugs to put in the comments that Julio told a story that they all had hot wings and Easy provided direction for what he envisioned, but I don't think he got to see the finish. And all right, that brings us back to when I was asking Tyrie about the AI crap that I read from Google Bard and ChatGPT. Not only did it say like crazy stuff about, you know, who some of the artwork directors were that weren't true. Those names again, if I even still have them on this list. No, I don't. But the other thing it said was it was saying that the original album cover was a Ouija board and that it was controversial and that some like religious groups protested it and that Ruthless Records had to go back and scrap the original Ouija cover and replace it with what we now know with the four guys standing on the front cover. Like it did mention that the second cover was the eternal cover that we know. I don't remember anything about any Ouija board album cover.
Have a good night, Andy.
How could what?
I was saying, have a good night, Andy. Andy was signing off. When you were saying that Ouija board thing, I was wondering if it was and this is me taking a wild stretch, but I was wondering if it was confusing the Ouija board because of the Ouija shit and its AI with the pentagram Julio story.
Oh, great.
You know, so it's AI, it confuses some shit, so there's some Ouija board music in there, and I was just wondering if maybe it was mixing up a bunch of shit.
That's a great point.
So,
yeah, actually, I don't even remember what the story was because I think he sent you the original like expanded thing with the pentagram. What do you remember anything about that? Because it slipped my mind. It's been 5 years.
Nah, so he had said on his Facebook when I was stalking him for the interview that it was a pentagram. And so I asked him about that and the thing, and he said, "Oh, you didn't know that?" And I was like, "Nah, like we all think it's like part of the map." And he just gets a good laugh out of it. And he's like, "Nah, it was a pentagram, and you know, we couldn't use the whole pentagram, so we used that." And then they ended up, you know, putting it into the map. And it's so funny, like Bone fans flip the fuck out. It's not a fucking pentagram, it's the map they live on. And I'm like, bro, have you guys ever actually looked at the fucking map, you guys? Like, it doesn't really look like that. Like, everybody calm your fucking tits for just 1 second and try not to believe every single thing you've ever been told since the 90s and just listen to the guy that actually created the fucking thing. But when you said that AI thing, that's all I could think of is I wonder if it's confusing those two things. Also, I just want to say shout out to RC Thugsta, who used my own interview against me just now and said that Julio said that they sat down and had wings and Easy provided the direction. I didn't even remember that, so I think that's great. Shout out to RC Thugsta. He is the man. You think I'm the man behind the curtain of Oz. That is the true man behind the curtain of Oz right there.
So Therese, what else you got, man?
Man, when you asked me about the latest stuff that I'm checking out right now is them doing this tour stuff right now. Like, man, they had like two big things going on at the same time, with Busy having to be over doing the Juicy Fest and them doing a halftime show for the Raiders. It was like, yo, this is something I ain't never got to experience as a Bone fan. So I'm like, my group is like doing some big things right now, you know? Like, that's kind of crazy.
That was pretty big, man. Halftime show, Raiders, and they did a photograph with Ice Cube.
Yeah.
And who I think there was
Lil
some
Easy.
others.
Lil Easy was in it.
Lil
Easy
Easy.
Yep.
Yeah, Cecil, weren't you asking about like how come like Little Easy didn't do his whole verse?
Yeah. What I thought the whole time I knew I'm not gonna get into logistics here, but I knew Lil Easy was gonna be there way before it hit the internet, and so the whole time I'm just waiting for the lead up Lil Easy E to drop his verse, you know, because they were doing pieces of the song. It looked like they were doing 2 verses a song, and I knew it was all leading up to boom, 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 boom. So like when we got to Lil Easy, I was like, here we go. Lil Easy's about to rip his dad's part, and then all of a sudden Lil Easy's just singing the Crossroads, and I'm like, what in the fucking fuck just happened? Like, he did do the motherfucker though. I will say, shout out to Bone. Like, they didn't have to share. They didn't have to share any moment at all. Hey, Cold Blooded, welcome to the dark side. Cold Blooded joins the Skull and Crossroads Society. Hell yeah!
I got the sound turned down. Did it say it? Welcome to the dark side.
It did. Fuck yeah!
Nice, bro.
Nice. I love that.
Welcome aboard, of course, Cold Blooded. I mean, dude, you'd definitely be in my top 10 Skull and Crossroads Society, man. Hey, Cold Blood has been sending me some vintage Skull and Crossroads Society-esque creeping on a come-up era links that he's had saved in his secret stash. So props to Cold Blood and his spooky stash. It rivals Jordan Corey's.
I just want to shout out Mark as well. I believe Mark either joined right before the stream or during the stream. So I just want to shout him out as well, because Mark Scott joined First Degree as well.
Nice. Well, welcome to the dark side.
All right, Therese, you got anything else for us before we let you go?
No, that was just pretty much it, man. That them doing this big, these tours at the same time, these shows. It kind of and it's crazy. Nicki Minaj just said that shout out to them because they was like, they like rock stars, and then they got these 2 tours showing proof like, yeah, these guys is like rock stars, which goes into the question of the week of what keeps me around. It's that potential rock star status that I see in these guys. Like, that's what's been keeping me. Like, I see that rock star stardom in them that they have, when they all together, man. It's like it's a synergy that be going on. So yeah,
that what you just said there, Torres, that actually almost answers the second question of the week that we put out, is what kept you hanging on as a Bone fan?
Yeah, that's my answer right there.
Okay. Nice. Well, people out there, keep on the lookout for the question of the week that's going to drop this Tuesday. It may or may not have already dropped for members, and if it hasn't, I'm going to go ahead and activate that after the show to get that out to you guys right away. And by the way, thanks to everybody that's given props to the question of the day, question of the week format. It's always been a favorite of mine, so I'm glad that it's a favorite for others as well. They're fun to do.
All right, Therese, thanks for calling in, brother. You're quickly becoming like the co-host of this motherfucker. We get to talk to Therese every week. I'm sure we'll did you hear that I dropped a little insider information to the listeners that next week it's supposed to be HC the Chemist?
Yeah, I'm gonna be looking after listening to this. See, I'm looking forward to HC the Chemist. Like I said, I got introduced to them guys around Unified era, so I want to see if his story is similar, as he always been around, and I just didn't find out about him until Unified.
Yeah, I'm excited for that interview, especially because he's currently there, but he's been around a really long time. It's rare at this point that we get somebody that is still around and has been around for a long time at the same time. So I'm sure it'll be exciting. I'm sure we'll hear from you next week. Everybody show some love to our homie Therese in the chat room. I'm going to leave the lines open for a couple more minutes if you guys want to call in and talk some bone with us the way that Therese just did. All the information is at the top of the screen. And then if you don't, then I guess we're just going to move on for the night. It's what it is.
Yeah, and let me give a shout out to all the members and to other people. If you see the special emoji after somebody's name, like for instance, I see right now Mark Scott and Cold Blooded got that B on their name. And as you move along, that color changes to like show your rank. Let me see if I type something Lippy here. Yeah, okay. So you see mine has like a darker blue, so it it kind of shows you like I'm going through the from the apprentice and to the second degree and to the third degree, and the longer I stay on, that color changes. So it kind of shows your rank in the club as well. And so if you see anybody that has that emoji, that lets you know that that's a Skull and Crossroads member, that's a fellow brother of the club. And and you guys all, if you guys don't know each other, you guys should meet each other's, because you guys are now fraternity members of the Brotherhood. And may you never thirst.
And just so you know, John, the way those go are a new member gets that light blue. The dark blue that you have is 1 month. It'll change again at 2 months, and then changes again at 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, and the big boy, 48 months, is a gold and platinum bee. So those are the different ones. And then, we got the different emojis. I forget how many we have right now. It's quite a few. And I know that once we get 2 more members, it'll let me add even another emoji. So yeah, man, if you guys are not part of the Skull and Crossroads Society right now, it's one of the easiest ways to support the show. Not only are you supporting the show, but you're getting something out of it. Previously, we'd always say, hey, drop them super chats, those donations, and all that shit was awesome, and we appreciate it. And you can still super chat, you can still do donations, but if you want to do something similar and get something out of it, you can join the Skull and Crossroads Society. And not only is it like giving us a super chat, but you're going to get a bunch of perks out of it. Therese, whose name in the chat is Elberna, says, my name isn't Therese anymore. It is Skeletal Melodies. You are one confusing guy, Elberna, Therese, Melodies, Skeletal.
What movie? That reminds me, like, is that a quote from a movie? My name is no longer this. My name is now this.
I don't know. Motherfucker.
Well, he was something different last season. Well, last season he had several names.
Yeah.
And the season before that, I don't remember. So I think Chameleon Bone might be what we call you.
All right. Is that it? We got anybody else? Anybody else want to call in? We're on Zoom right now. The meeting ID is 733-570-6161. Passcode is E.1999. If you want to call in, we're coming down to the buzzer. I'm pretty cleaned out. I did a fucking whole interview. I'm tired. Boom, boom, boom,
I got
boom.
a question for John while you're waiting, Cecil. Give people a minute in case people got nervous fingers.
Got it. I'm waiting.
John, I didn't want to keep our guest, Tyrie, on hold, but I had a question for you because I knew he would not want to know about the skull. What's the real, not the real one, what's the other society called? The Skull and
the Skull and Bones Society. Yeah,
okay, so the Skull and Bones Society, why is 322 their number?
I used to think it had to do with the amount of bones in the body, but that's not true because there's 206 bones in the body.
Right.
The other one had to do with it was like some great man, I guess at the time. I posted it in our side Voxer chat. I look, actually, you know what? I'll Google it real quick.
RC Thugsta in here? That motherfucker's gonna have your answer if RC Thugsta's still in here. Fuck we even doing? We got the answer floating around in the chat room, RC Thugsta.
Oh, so okay, here's what Google says. A letter between early society members in Yale's archives suggests that 322 is a reference to the year 322 BCE, and that the members measured dates from this year instead of from the Common Era. But for our for our folklore at this point, unless we make a better narrative, 322 is the number of our P.O. box
of the Skull and Crossroads Society.
Of this legendary. It was meant to be.
Yeah, when I made the logo for the Skull and Crossroads Society, we didn't even know what the fuck it was gonna be. I just remember I was making shit and I was deep into some, Skull and Crossbones, fucking Illuminati ass shit. And I see John laughing because he also knows a part of this story that I'm not gonna say, but I just remember I made this thing and there was the What I based it on, the Masons, right? It's a free. I did a flip on the Freemasons
Yeah,
logo.
we took one of their slogans of meet upon the level, part upon the square.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, who knows that that's even a Freemason thing, but the public mythology of the Freemasons, that's one of their phrases. And so we modified it to, what was it? Part upon St. Clair. What was the first? Meet upon
the land. Meet upon the land. But the THA. Meet upon the land. Part upon Sinclair.
Fucking guys.
You know, and I just made it fucking around. And then when we started doing Beyond the Harmony merch, I was like, I'm gonna throw this on some merch. And then when I figured out we could have this member thing, I was like, John, I know what we need to call this membership thing. And you know, now we got different degrees, like we're Freemasons. We got and just like Freemasons, bro, it's like the degrees like make sense. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, how did you guys skip all these numbers and get to this degree? What are these numbers in between? I don't know. We got 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 99th degree Skull and Crossroads Society members that you can join at join.beyondtheharmony.com or right from the membership tab on the YouTube page.
Oh, wait, let's try Genesis 3:22. Let's see what the passage says. The man has now become like one of us. Ho, 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 ho. Knowing good and evil. Oh, my goodness. He must not be allowed to reach out in his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. Man. Holy smokes. And then in Genesis 3:23, God banishes Adam and Eve from his physical presence and gives them a life of pain, frustration, difficult work, and eventually physical death. That's 3:23, but 3:22 was the first part.
Oh my God, Roy, you haven't seen my fucking Skull and Crossroads Society, and you're a Freemason? Oh, hold on. I got me in your private chat. I'm about to fucking fuck your mind up. You're gonna be like, what the fuck? This is one of my proudest creations right here, is this Skull and Crossroads Society fucking logo.
Yeah, and we had like these ideas for the bone box. I mean, again, this is before we even did a single episode.
Yeah.
And Cecil, actually, I want to find the original artwork for that bone box, because I was just thinking, like, regardless of what was inside the box, the artwork for the exterior looked really cool.
Yeah, I got all that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just sent this shit to Roy, who helped me out earlier today with some shit that I needed. And he's an artist himself. So not only is he an artist, but he's a Freemason. And now this artist Freemason is looking at my art. Fucking drop it in the chat, Roy. Don't drop it in our private. I want to know what you think. But that is the logo for our club. You'll see that there are many members floating around in here. Cold Blooded just joined. That's how everybody's using these cool emojis. And then there's lots of different benefits that come with being a Skull and Crossroads Society member, including you guys are getting early access. All the videos that we drop, they come out first for members. There's some exclusives in there that people are just not getting at all. Unless they're a member. There's a lot of other things as well. I hate to tell y'all, but at some point I'm going to do a live interview, and the only people that are going to be able to comment on it are going to be Skull and Crossroads Society members. I ain't going to do that to all of them, but it's going to happen. Once we hit a certain threshold and I can say there's enough members to carry on a conversation, I'm going to lock that motherfucker down. That's just going to be for the S&C Society, so I'm just letting y'all know.
Yeah, and that shirt is on its way to Joseph Tech. I don't know. I hope it reaches your destination. And when you get it, man, take us a pic maybe so we could see it, because none of us have ordered that shirt yet. I might order one.
Yep. Joseph is the first one to get it. Well, that's for 99th degree members, baby. So he's the only one we know that can even get it. That's an exclusive 99th degree member shirt that he's getting. And I'm curating your box, Joseph. I haven't sent it out because I'm figuring out what's going in it, but I'm telling you right now, to just give it away, a little secret, you got a copy of Faces of Death coming your way. So there's one of the things that's coming in your bone box is a copy of Faces of Death. So
yeah, let's make sure that address works.
Yeah. I'm waiting for him to get the shirt to this wacky address before we send the box. I can deal with that shirt getting lost. I can't deal with this box of relics I'm going to send him getting lost.
Yeah.
So, that's what it is. That's dope. Is it the Mo Thug Fist at the top? It is the Mo Thug Fist at the top. Look at fucking Roy with the fucking keen eye. It is. It is. Meet upon the land, part upon Sinclair, baby. All right. This is what it is, motherfuckers. I think it's shutdown time. Is it shutdown time? I don't see anybody in the waiting room. We talked to Tyree Dillihay tonight. We gave y'all Eternal. We got New Skull and Crossroads Society members. We talked about questions of the fucking week. We talked Bob's Burgers on Bone Thugs and Harmony. We got anything else?
No, I got my whole sheet out. I cut Matt off a few times. So, Matt, well, I'll leave you with the final word before Cecil West and Feenics Ryzin take us out of here.
I'm going to tell a really quick story that I learned today from
I love
Tyrie.
it.
Imagine being a 17-year-old kid getting hired to work for a rap label when you listen to rap, getting an unmarked E.1999 Eternal CD and bringing it to your friends.
Listen.
Wow, that's it.
Listen, the collector in me was just like, oh my God, could you imagine whatever this test press fucking copy of this album is? And he just...
He probably doesn't even have it anymore.
Doesn't have it.
But
one of his friends probably has that motherfucker.
We'll leave it at that.
And just a final question from Jory: we getting when are we seeing that DJ Cecil West show? Is it just going to be a spontaneous thing, or is this going to become a staple?
Nah, I don't know. I'd love to do it more. You know, that was kind of a when I have time type of thing. And the music part came out of nowhere, man. I was just getting on there to talk some shit. But yeah, you know, I will. It's something I want to do more. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed playing some of the like the rarities, and I even played. And I don't know who hung out for the whole thing, but I even played a piece of a radio clip, and it's Eazy-E, and he's on the radio, and Lazy's on the radio with him. And Daz and Corrupt call in with the DOC, and it's argument between the Dog Pound, DOC, Eazy-E, and Lazy Bone on the fucking radio. And the poor radio host, she's just like, y'all can't swear, please don't swear. And Eazy-E's just trying to be like a business like gangster, and he's like, man, y'all can't swear. You want to have this conversation, y'all can't swear like that. We on the radio. And, you know, Dog Pound didn't give a fuck. And finally, like, Eazy-E, like, calls out some shit about DOC. And they're like, the DOC's right here. Doc's right here. And so Eazy's like, put him on then. So I even played that shit. So the Cecil West, Welcome to the West Side. That's something I came up with that title a long time ago. Remember, John? Years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's what it's gonna be. Cecil West presents Welcome to the West Side, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll work it into regular rotation.
I do have a final request for you, Cecil, and that's to pass on this interview with Tyrie to our boy Cairo Wolf. Let him know that.
Oh yeah.
You know, I haven't heard from Cairo in a minute, so you know, I hope he's doing good. And you know, let him know that we talked to Tyrie today.
I see Roy is sending me he is sending me fucking real Freemason shit. He's like, I can see the resemblance. Yeah, man. I just sat there and stared at that shit for a while, so you know what it is. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I hope Cody Hillier, man. I if Cody's not listening, I hope Cody got a chance too. Cody loves all the artists, and I hope Cody Hillier got a chance as well.
And that's what I had mentioned, that we should say this at the beginning of the episode. We might as well just say late as heck. Did you name off all the artists that we've now interviewed? You know, actual artists that did artwork for these covers.
It's crazy. It's Aaron Purnell, Jason Bibb, Cairo Wolf, Donald Cunningham,
we didn't do Donald.
Or yet. Not Donald, Julio, Tyrie.
Yeah, so that's 5, right?
Yeah, is that all of them? Is that everybody?
That's a
Aaron,
roster, man.
we did Aaron. We did Jason Bibb from Faces of Death. We did Julio. We did Kyra Wolf. We did Tyree Dillihay. I got motherfucking Cody Hillier just ready to go. I almost got fucking Donald. Listen, the only reason I haven't done Cody is because I'm working on something special for Cody. Cody's done a lot for the show, and even though I'm gonna get Cody a traditional interview as well, I'm not gonna tell y'all, but I'm working on something special for Cody Hillier. So
Nice.
that's it.
All right, y'all. Well, hey, shout out to Severed Sounds in the comments there in the chat.
Yeah, hey, Severed Sounds, man, always showing love as well, man. Shout out Severed Sounds. Shout out all our Skull and Crossroads Society members, everybody that tuned in. I saw people commenting over on Facebook. I see one lonely viewer still on Twitch. Oh, that's what I was going to say. If y'all are on our Twitch, go check out our Twitch. I'm trying to build up our TikTok. We just started a TikTok. We're Beyond the Harmony on TikTok. Please go follow us on TikTok. If you don't follow us on Instagram, the only thing that we're not Beyond the Harmony on is Twitter, because they don't let us use all the letters. So we're Beyond the Harmony, DA, on Twitter. But please make sure y'all check us out on all these platforms. But definitely, we would love to start going live on TikTok. We need 1,000 followers to do that. We're Beyond the Harmony on TikTok, so please go follow us there. Follow us on Twitch. Like this, comment on it, subscribe. You know the whole thing. They call it a motherfucking a call to action, so that's what we're doing. My name is Cecil West, rocking with the one and only
Jonathan Lippy.
And he is the co-hosting, coast to coasting, come up creeper, never sour, always sweeter, ladies and gentlemen.
I am Matthew Weaver.
Feenics Ryzin, take us home.
Beyond the harmony for the fans, we celebrate. Uploading the videos every Thursday, so join.